No Paul today. No Paul for the rest of the year. I've been traded for Paul, as you all know, and further proof of that with today, another episode of Branham and George. Brian filling in on the board. Maybe not filling in. It might be his permanent new move. We'll see. But Branham and George until 3 o'clock on a Monday. Last show on this station for the year. We will be off the air. Not off the air, but nothing local tomorrow. Nothing local on January 1. Plus, we'll be carrying all the college football playoff games. So that's really cool. Joe, I saw that you took Joseph to his first ever Rocket game yesterday. I hope you covered his eyes in the last 45 seconds. Did you stay for the end?
We pretty much made it all the way till the last 3 minutes of the game.
So you missed the drama. You missed the good part.
We missed the last 5 minutes. He was checked out. It was time. He's 3 years old. The fact we made it that far to the fourth quarter surprised me. But yeah, we missed the good stuff. I had to watch the end of the game. I taped it. I always tape it. Wasn't gonna watch
VHS or what?
A DVR.
Gotcha.
I DVR'd it. Sorry.
Hey, thanks for the invite, by the way. Appreciate you inviting me to the game with you guys. It looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Would really like to be there with you, a dear friend.
Yeah, we're gonna fly in from wherever you're at right now in front of a bed.
Would you have invited me if I were in town?
No.
Then there you go. It's a moot point where I'm at.
It's
a moot point where I'm currently
You'll be invited
at
to his
Stillwater.
birthday party.
What's that?
You'll be invited to his birthday party.
Okay, just saying. I thought we were Facebook friends. I'm friendly enough with you to be a Facebook friend.
You were invited
enough to know that Joseph was going to his first ever Rocket game.
You were invited to my wedding. That's good enough.
Is it good enough? I would have liked to have been there for Joseph's big day.
That's true. That's fair. Maybe his first Astros game. We'll do that.
What'd you think of the? Plus, I'm not going to accept the invitation, but it's always nice to be asked. It's always nice to be asked. What'd you make of the last 45 seconds? Where do you want to start? You want to start with the men? You want to start with Fred VanVleet? You want to start with the officiating Mark David? Where do you want to begin with this?
Ahmed Thompson.
The drama.
What a just WWE takedown. That was a great move on his behalf. He's just
acknowledge me.
Yes, that was full on what that was. It was awesome. That was fun. I still don't really get how it got to that point. I know they're face to face, but it was going from confrontation to full on takedown very quickly.
I couldn't figure out what sparked it either. The Rockets were getting in position to defend the inbound or whatever, and Amin kind of just he's kind of putting his arms on the little arm bar to see where Hero's at. It looked like Hero maybe kind of tied his arm up. And that's what started to get them locked up. And then, Amin grabbed him by the lapels, the left and right lapel. And then Hero must have said something. Hero must have said something to him because Amin Thompson let him know that he is the more physical, stronger of the two guys.
Yeah, it was. So, starting there, whatever was said, I don't even think it was, borderline, or over the line or anything like that. There's definitely going to be suspensions that are, thrown out from this. We saw pretty hefty suspension thrown out in a game last week as well from two guys. What was that? I can't remember who was playing in that one, but it's Amen, he's probably going to get suspended for 2 or 3 games. Wouldn't be surprised if there's other guys who were suspended from the Rockets as well for another game at least. But whatever it was, this is kind of who the Rockets have been for a year now. Really since Ime Udoka called LeBron James soft and told him to quit bitching during a game, they've been getting into scraps nonstop, really, for the last year. Paul and I, before the season, we set the over-under at fights for the year at 4.5. It might have even been higher than that because it's just they're just a tough team.
And what is the fight total at?
I think it's only at 1. I think that was the first one of the year.
Yeah, I can't remember another one. I think that Amin's going to get a few games, and I think Jalen might get 1. I think that's it. Nobody came off the bench. No one else was really part of the melee, in terms of instigating it, because there's only 2 ejections from a player standpoint, Amin and Jalen. A little surprised Tyler Hero got thrown out of the game. What did Tyler Hero do to deserve to get thrown out of that game?
That's why I feel he must have said something to instigate it. They must have said he must have done enough to instigate the being thrown to the ground to where he was deserved to be thrown out of the game. Also, probably just probably the right thing to do. I imagine it's kind of untenable to leave him in the game after that.
Yeah, that's true. He had the here. Did you hear what Tyler Hero said after the game?
Yeah.
Brian, I don't know if you have it, but here was what Tyler Hero after the game about the scrum.
2 competitors going at it, playing basketball, and then it got a little
out of hand. It's not every single night that you have all of those techs and all of those ejections. Was it building to that, or was it just a standard physical game that just had one of those igniting moments?
Just a physical game. I guess that's what happens when someone's scoring, throwing dimes, doing the whole thing. So I get mad too.
There you go. Tyler Hero, arrogant in victory. He's not wrong, though. Like, Tyler Hero, 27 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds. He's not wrong. Like, what he said is actually true. Like, he had a really good game.
No, he's the reason why, like, as much as Pat Riley wants to come out and put out statements that they're not trading Jimmy Butler, like, what he did last night is kind of the reason why you probably should trade Jimmy Butler and start just thinking about the future and building around him, because he's a good basketball player. I don't know if can be a great basketball player, but on a night like last night, he was clearly the best player on the court on both sides, I would say.
Yeah, he had some critical moments in crunch time. I've had sports hate for Tyler Hero for a long time, so now the rest of Houston is coming around. He was at Kentucky, hit a big shot in a Sweet 16 game against Houston. That really gave Kentucky the win, and then you eliminated Houston. So I've had a healthy sports hate for Tyler Hero for quite some time. So I enjoyed yesterday's moment maybe more than most people. I've wanted to personally do that to Tyler Hero for like 7 years. So the fact that Amin Thompson was able to do something that I've wanted to do for 7 years makes me very, very jealous. But I do like this attitude from the Rockets. Like, I want to be the most physical team on the floor. I want to be the team that, okay, we better bring our, we better be ready to scrap when we play the Houston Rockets, because I think that reputation can a lot of times help you. I think a lot of times a team will face you and be like, I'm not really into this tonight. So I like that aspect of the Rockets. I think it's one of Ime Udoka's greatest strengths is that he's brought toughness to this team in a pretty short time, because they were not tough under Steven Silas. Like, they were the opposite of this. They were passive. They were weak. They were meek as well. And now with Ime Udoka, it's like, okay, yeah, maybe with Amin Thompson, some people around the league are like, that was kind of Bush League. I don't care. Like, I don't care. I want that reputation on my basketball team. I want the other teams around the league to know when you face the Rockets, you better be nice. You better be very respectful to them, because if not, you're going to get slung to the ground like Amin Thompson did to Tyler Hero. The Fred VanVleet 5-second violation, 47 seconds to play-ish, somewhere around there. Rockets were down by 4. What'd you make of that whole situation? The 5-second violation and then the eventual ejection of Fred VanVleet.
Yeah, I think the ejection's soft. Like, I know it's because what they said in the pool report is basically because he re-engaged after. I mean, I think he gets the timeout. Like, it's close. I'm not surprised he got ejected. I mean, Fred VanVleet, like, he has an issue with referees. What was it, Tony Brothers that he commented on last year when he talked about him pretty negatively, pretty publicly. So I'm not surprised. It's probably the bump there that he gives the referee that gets him the actual ejection, which, don't touch a referee. That's going to get you thrown out of the game. I mean, I don't know how you have a 5-second violation in the NBA. That's my biggest takeaway from it.
What do you mean?
I mean, just these things shouldn't happen.
What do you mean? Like, from what point of view, though? From, like, the official's point of view or from the player's point of view?
From the team point of view. Like, either get the ball in or get the timeout in. Like,
yeah,
it shouldn't be on Fred to call the timeout.
Like, I feel like a lot of the backlash from the city is kind of ridiculous, blaming the officials. Like, Ben Dembose is on one right now. Like, I'm a little worried about his safety. I want him to step off the ledge a little bit. And I love the guy, but my goodness, he's calling Mark Davis like a liar and corrupt NBA. He's losing his mind. This is how you feel if you're a Houston sports fan. Like, I feel for the guy. I feel for the guy.
Is his Twitter private yet from the backlash that he's gotten, or has that not happened yet?
I don't think. I mean, I was seeing some stuff. I don't think it's private. I didn't go specifically to his page. I just saw some of it on the timeline. But look, here's my stance with this. Like, I agree with you. Get the ball in, dude. Yeah. Like, get the ball in. And a lot of people are looking at Mark Davis's count. Like, oh, he started it early. Okay, like, maybe he gave his first pump the second that Fred VanVleet touched it, but also between the first and second pump and the second and third pump and the third and fourth pump and the fourth and fifth pump, it's longer than a second. So, like, if you just pull out the stopwatch, and I did this to see, like, how accurate and fair the resentment to Mark Davis was, I did it like 10 times, a dozen times maybe. I did it a lot. The fastest that I could do it, and I was trying to do it fast, from the moment that Fred VanVleet touches the ball to the moment that he tries to signal for the timeout, and I was pretty quick on when he was signaling for a timeout, was over 5.5 seconds. Like, it was 5.6 for me.
But
That's a 5-second violation. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Rocket fans. I know that you're all mad at the officials. I know that you're like, oh my goodness, because Mark Davis got the 5-second violation wrong. It led to the brawl. What are you talking about? Mark Davis was right. It was 5.6 seconds, so he was right to get the 5-second violation. If you bump an official, it's an automatic ejection. No problem there. And it's like, oh, well, that bad officiating led to the brawl. What? How is that a correlation at all?
Yeah.
It was the right call on the 5-second violation. You can't bump an official. You can't touch an official. You touch an official, you're ejected, and there was obvious contact there. So that's an automatic ejection. And then now the Rocket fans are trying to say that the correlation between that call, which were both accurate, by the way, and the right calls is what started the brawl? What are you talking about? Y'all sound crazy.
So here's my problem with the 5 seconds for though. Even like I said, get the ball in or get the timeout in, either one. The problem that I have with this is an NBA problem. This is not a Rockets problem, and this is where I guess I'll defend Fred VanVleet here for a second. Is that they never call this stuff accurately. You watch an NBA game, there are guys who are pushing it for the 8-second violation, the 3-second violation inside the paint, 5 seconds on the inbounds. Like they're so loose with the rules and actually following them. They give these guys passes all the time, which is why I think in this moment, we're like, Fred's clearly not even looking at the referee. That's part of the problem. At no point does he acknowledge.
It shouldn't be.
No, but you have to be, if the count's happening to your right, you have to kind of be at least a little aware of what's going on around you. But there is no.
You got to be trying to pass it in.
Yeah. Well, I know, but you got to are you not listening? Or is he not? Unless it's not verbal.
I think it's a silent count.
Is it silent? Okay. Yeah, I mean, but just get it in. That at the end of the day, just get it in. And there is no correlation between this and the brawl. If this is what triggered the ball, then that might be soft by the Rockets.
Yeah. I saw so many people, not even Rocket fans, national people too. Oh, the way Mark Davis let this game get out of control. What did he do? He called a 5-second violation that was accurate, and he threw out a player for bumping him. Yeah, that's what a referee's supposed to do. And you're right that it's an inexact science with the clocks, unless it's a shot clock or the 8-second half court violation or whatever, because you can literally look at the clock whenever you're looking at that specifically. Maybe bump out, maybe use the stop clock. Maybe bring out a stopwatch on these to get it more accurate. I wouldn't mind that because it is inexact. Okay, 1 second, 2 second. And Mark, you could also argue from the opposite view that Mark Davis's count was slow.
Mm-hmm.
So hey, if you want to get super accurate about it, bring out the stopwatch. I wouldn't hate that because it would be more precise. It would be more accurate. At the same time, you know that you have 5 seconds to get the ball in, so get the ball in within 5 seconds. And if you're on the other side of this, let's flip it. Let's say you're a Heat fan. What if Mark Davis doesn't call that? Rockets hit the 3, they get a stop, they come hit a game winner. Is that fair to the Heat? Is that fair to the Heat that because it was 5.5 seconds, it was close enough, they didn't call it? What are you supposed to do as an official? You're supposed to officiate the game based by the rule. Mm-hmm. So if I would be ticked off as a Heat fan if he didn't call the 5-second violation when he had it for 5.5 seconds minimum. And then the other part of it, the technical foul, look, you can't touch a referee. And if Mark Davis doesn't throw out Fred VanVleet in that situation, you're screwing all the other referees around the league. Because now you've set a precedent that it's okay to make a little soft touch to the officials. So he owes it to all the officials to throw out Fred VanVleet in that spot. That wasn't Mark Davis's fault. None of that was Mark Davis's fault. He was right on the 5-second violation. He was right on the ejection of Fred VanVleet. End of story.
Yeah, I totally agree. And honestly, this is one of those for me where it's people are going to be upset about this because it happened to the Rockets, and they're not going to look at it from the other perspective. They're not going to look at it from well, what if they didn't, like you just said, what if they didn't call it, and what if the Rockets hit a 3 there? What if the script was literally flipped? Rockets fans would be celebrating. It all goes back to I think the bigger picture part of like I said, the refereeing in the NBA is so inconsistent that it's why fans get so upset about what things are happening. But they got it right yesterday. It is the reality of it. This was the right decision. Fred VanVleet walks into the referee. It is soft contact, but it is contact nonetheless. And you know what? Of all the players for this to happen to, this is the one guy you should not be expecting this from. You paid this guy, Fred VanVleet, a lot of money to be the veteran leader of this team, which includes, not bumping a referee, getting the ball in within 5 seconds, making good decisions on and off the court, and he failed in that yesterday.
Yeah, and he actually owned up to it post game. He was like, "Yeah, I've had a healthy respect of Mark." He was pretty actually like complimentary of Mark Davis in his post game. He's like, "Hey, I put my team in a bad spot. I didn't intentionally bump them, so I don't want that narrative to get out that I'm out here bumping officials." Although he did bump an official. So like he actually owned it, which I appreciate, which also should that's kind of a point to my argument here. Here was Fred VanVleet saying, "Hey, yeah, I didn't handle that situation in the best way." He feels like he got screwed on the 5-second violation, probably to your point, because it's never called the same. Slopez on Twitch, still a weak call, especially that late in the game. Call that in the second quarter, not in the fourth with less than a minute to go. Okay, well then how do the Heat feel? How do the Heat feel? Okay, we're going to let this 5-second violation go because it's late in the fourth quarter now. You're screwing one team one way or the other. So what do you do as an official? You get it right. You get it right regardless. I hate the whole narrative. Well, you can't call that in the fourth quarter. Why not? If you don't, you're screwing the other team over.
Yeah, and I hear you, but the problem is like that's how they officiate the rest of the game. Like that's how they officiate, contact on a full court buzzer beater, at the end of the game when there's clearly contact.
How many times
do
you see buzzer beaters during the middle of a game?
No, I know.
You see it once.
I know.
So you don't officiate it differently during the middle of a game versus late in the fourth quarter.
But they definitely call things differently in the final 2 minutes of a basketball game than they do the rest of the game. So that's just this Lopez's point. No, I don't agree with it. I mean, they should call it correctly all the time. These are basic rules. This isn't, a palming a basketball or traveling, things that happen all the time in the NBA game and rarely get called. This is one of those that should be this should be a black and white issue. There should not be any gray area with either of this part of where 5 seconds touching an official, none of it should have happened. You shouldn't have lost the basketball game also. On a total part of this, you should have beat the Miami Heat, and they did.
Yeah, let's get to that part of it. 713-780-ESPN. Busy show with Branham and George. New show here at the station. We got plenty to get to today. What are your New Year's resolutions for the 3 pro teams in the city of Houston? A 10-minute drill because it's a catchy name. We'll get to some Week 17 hot takes. What are your Week 17 hot takes? How you feeling after the Texans didn't play this weekend? You feeling differently about them today than you did prior to the weekend? Mailbag Monday, plenty to get to. 713-780-3776, the HR&P listener line. We're on the Twitch, twitch.tv/ESPN975. Hopefully there's a lot of New Year's resolutions within that community. We're on YouTube at ESPN Houston. We're on Twitter at ESPN975. Joe's at Joe George Radio. Brian's at Sacked by BMAC. I'm at Jeremy Branham. I think the Rockets are magicians, and I'll tell you why next. It is Branham and George on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
Broadcasting live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios, it's Gallant and George with special guest star Paul Gallant and recurring character Joe George. Also featuring Sean Mapes.
No, not today. Paul and I have been traded. Brian is in for Mapes. We'll see what happens with the producers later date. We will not be doing anything local tomorrow, anything local on the 1st. We'll be carrying the college football playoffs, though. You can listen to that here. That's right, Joe? I guess I kind of just went rogue and said that.
No, that's correct.
That was the case, but I figured I was pretty confident saying that. And it turns out I was right.
Yeah,
so,
30 minutes before the game tomorrow night, the pregame shows will start, and then it'll start right at 12 o'clock. On the 1st and go probably till like midnight when Notre Dame beats Georgia.
Yeah, right. And that's a win-win situation for me, by the way. Notre Dame and Georgia. If Notre Dame loses, great. Don't like Notre Dame.
Come on, man.
If Georgia loses, what's that?
What do we do to you?
A lot.
Why don't you like Notre Dame?
I think they're vastly overrated for the majority of my life.
Okay.
So that. Quite frankly,
anything
I think they
else?
get a lot of. I think that they're privileged.
I think
they're the Caitlin Clark of college football. I think they're privileged. I think they have a lot of silver spoon type of things.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm a little bitter about it. Yeah.
I mean,
as someone who has to work for everything that they've ever gotten, I feel like a lot of Notre Dame gets handed to them.
That's probably fair.
Yeah, I think it's fair. And then Georgia, if they lose, great. I like to bash the SEC.
Yeah,
so that's a win-win for me.
It really is for like the whole world, honestly, for the college football world.
Yeah, everybody loses. It'd be fine. So the Rockets, I think, are magicians. Why do I think that the Rockets are magicians? Not for anything positive and not for anything that they did intentionally, but I think we're missing the lead of yesterday's game, quite frankly, because of all the drama that happened late. Like I saw some people saying that the Rockets got screwed. Well, their offense was doing absolutely nothing, and they were down by 4 points with 45 seconds to play when Fred VanVleet was called for a 5-second violation. What were the chances that the Rockets win that game if Fred VanVleet inbounds it?
Probably not much.
Maybe 25% at best.
Yeah, that's
like
fair.
At best, probably 25%. So the outcome of that game was probably already determined before Fred VanVleet even caught the ball from Mark Davis. So okay. So the Rockets probably lost. Even if Fred VanVleet doesn't get the 5-second violation, the ejections don't happen, the brawl doesn't happen. Yet all we're talking about today is the Amin Thompson brawl. All we're talking about today is the ejections. All we're talking about today is Mark Davis. All we're talking about today is the Fred VanVleet altercation with Mark Davis. When the conversation should really be for the second game in a row, the Rockets blew a late lead. They blew a 16-point lead against the Timberwolves in their previous game. They were up 7 with 7 minutes left to play yesterday against the Heat. So the fact that they had all this drama is actually saving face for the Rockets because it's all that's being talked about with the Rockets when the storyline is, the lead is that the Rockets against two teams that are above 500 blew late leads at home. And if they want to be like one of the better teams in the Western Conference, if they want to be this dark horse team, they can't be teams that blow late leads at home. And the bigger fear that I have, like the larger fear that I have when it comes to the Rockets as it relates to this season specifically, I don't think that they have a closer. I don't think that they have a guy that they can go to late in the game where the momentum's going the other way that says, okay, I'm gonna put this team on my back. I'm going to make a tough bucket. I'm going to get to the free throw line. I'm going to stop this negative momentum. And we saw it 2 nights in a row against the Timberwolves. I mentioned you're down 16. You're up 16 points. You're up 16 points, and you went to sleep offensively because you don't have a closer. You're up 7 with 7 minutes left to play against Miami yesterday. You went to sleep because you didn't have a closer. That should be the storyline right now with the Rockets. That should be the lead story right now with the Rockets. And look, Alpi Şengün, he had a huge game against Minnesota. What did he do down the stretch? He missed a couple of free throws that would have given the Rockets the win. Fred VanVleet has been a little bit better lately than he had been at the start of the year. What is he doing down the stretch? My biggest fear, though, what is Jalen Green doing in these moments? Jalen Green's ball watching, lollygagging on the perimeter. So it scares me in terms of the Rockets being competitive in the Western Conference. I don't think that they have a closer that can put these games away.
I honestly, you're right. I hate to say how right you are right now because I honestly
have great takes.
I didn't even think about like the fact that they choked a lead in the last 2 games or not being able to close out the last 2 games, both at home. But in terms of a fear of Jalen Green, I don't know why it's a fear. I think didn't we already know this? Like he's not the guy.
Maybe so, but I mean,
I
everybody's
think
holding out hope.
yeah, I guess I'm kind of over it. Like I'm over that hope. I think the contract showed you that the Rockets don't believe that there's the hope for that. If they would have believed that Jalen Green was that guy, they would have given him a much bigger contract that he was eligible for. Instead, they gave him this 3-year deal, and it makes it very tradable. And I don't think Jalen Green will be a Houston Rocket next season. I've been on that stance. I'm not going to back down from it. Honestly, like if he can get traded in February, which I'm still not totally sure with all the CBA rules, like how long after a new deal you can be traded, it wouldn't shock me if he's not a Rocket at the deadline still. Because you're right, he's not the closer. They don't have the guy. They don't have a guy. Like they have a bunch of dudes, but they don't have the guy that you can rely on when you need it most to score. That's why, even though I don't know if I'm really in the idea of a 36-year-old Jimmy Butler always ends poorly wherever he's at business, but at least he's like the guy that can close out games, and we've seen him do it in the playoffs over time. The Rockets don't have that. They're the guy is supposed to be Jalen, and he's just not it. And I don't trust Fred VanVleet to be the guy. I mean, we watched him yesterday pass up on open threes to take worse shots. Like that's what he is. He's super inconsistent. He's a good role player, but he's not the guy that you want closing out this games. And until they get it, they're not actually going to compete in the playoffs because they don't have anyone that when it matters most can be Shai Gilgeous-Alexander or Ja Morant or Luka Doncic or LeBron. They don't have a James Harden or Kawhi if he's healthy. They don't have a Jokic and Anthony Edwards. Those are the other teams that are in the top 8 of the Western Conference Finals right now. They don't have a Steph Curry. Like they don't have it.
No, and you can't trade Jalen Green into the summer. Like based on my reading on that, I could be wrong. I'm like 90% confident. They can't trade Jalen Green until next offseason. So to me, that might be the time that you do it. But at the same time, you're not going to just trade him to trade him. Like, I'm not blaming anybody, by the way. Like, I don't think Rafael Stone has had the chance to trade Jalen Green for an upgrade at that position. I think if he had that opportunity, it would have been done. I don't think they've been married to the idea of Jalen Green must be a Houston Rocket, but at the same time, they're not going to just give Jalen Green away. That would be stupid. That wouldn't make any sort of sense. So, like, I think he's been waiting. And I think part of the contract extension is that he doesn't want to give away like a pretty good player that has trade value for free, right? Because if he lets him play this year, well, he would have been a restricted free agent. At which point now it's kind of murky on the type of contract he's going to get, and there might not be a contract out. Like he might get a contract if he were a restricted free agent that you don't want to match, and if you don't match it, now you're losing a player that does have positive trade value for absolutely nothing. So I think the reason that he signed him was that he was kind of kicking the can down the road. Like an opportunity hasn't presented itself yet. They don't want to lose a player who does have trade value for absolutely nothing. So let's give him this 3-year contract that is super tradable. We just can't trade it for a year. And at the same time, you're hoping he develops into that guy that you want him to be, which I think is fine. Like I think Jalen Green's super young. Like he's 22 years old. We've seen players that didn't have it at that age that eventually do get it. The problem is the Rockets do have to operate on a clock. They have to worry about his contract length. They have to worry about if an opportunity does exist, can they strike on that opportunity? So I don't think that the Rockets and Rafael Stone specifically have done anything wrong in their handling of Jalen Green. It's more my viewpoint of the player. And I've defended Jalen Green. I think it's important to let Jalen Green develop. It's important to look what Jalen Green looks like with more tutelage from Ime Udoka. But now the Rockets have kind of accelerated where they're at in the NBA. And I think that the major area that they could use an upgrade if they do want to take that now next step in the NBA is perimeter scoring, specifically a dude who you can count on late to get you a bucket when you absolutely need it.
Yeah, I honestly, I think Jalen Green, to me, like it's going to be very similar to my guess is what we saw the career trajectory of Andrew Wiggins, where Andrew Wiggins was drafted with the first overall pick to be a franchise changer. He ends up in Minnesota, and it really never works out there, right? Like he's a good player, but never really develops. And then eventually what happens? He gets traded, he moves around, but he becomes a really important and damn good role player for a championship level team. And you look back at that draft and you say, Andrew Wiggins, the number 1 pick in the draft, probably the right thing. But was he a franchise changer? Absolutely not. That's kind of what I feel like, Jeremy, the path of Jalen Green is right now, is we're going to look back and say that was a good pick for the Rockets. But what you needed him to be, he was not ever going to be. So you had to move him so he could be a great 6-man or something like that elsewhere, and you get a superstar player in return. I think he still has great value because of his age, and like he will be the key piece of a trade most likely this offseason. Like I or whenever they end up doing it. But I still think the ceiling's high for Jalen. I just don't know if he's going to turn into the guy specifically the Rockets need him to be.
Yeah, if we're trying to project career trajectory, I would agree with that. Like I think he's a 6-man on a good team. I don't think I don't like the Rockets need him to be their best perimeter scorer, right? He's not that. Like you can't go like Alpi Şengün isn't the closer, right? Like he kind of melts down late in close games, by the way. Like let's say the quiet part out loud. Like he kind of disappears a little bit in late game situations. He kind of like I don't want to use the word chokes in late game situations, but he looks a lot different in the final 5 minutes of a close game than he does in the first 43 minutes of a game. Just saying.
It's just like his style doesn't fit.
And he misses, like all of a sudden he becomes a hack at the free throw line. Like he barely hit iron against Minnesota on one of the free throws that he missed 2. He missed 2 of 4 down the stretch. You make 3 of 4, right? Make all of them, you win the game. And he absolutely clanked one. Like it barely hit the front of the iron. It's like, oh, okay, that's kind of a gag there. You know what I mean? Like it's one thing to miss them. It's one thing to like miss as badly as you've ever missed in your life. So like that kind of like catches my attention. And while I think the Andrew Wiggins comp is like solid in terms of their value to a team, I think they're very different players, Andrew Wiggins and Jalen Green. I think the better comp is Jamal Crawford. Jamal Crawford was a dude who was drafted in the top 10 in 2000. Like he was like, hey, come be the guy in Chicago, right? We're gonna make you that guy. He started a lot in his final 2 years there, and he scored a decent amount, not a ton, not as much as Jalen. But where did his career really take off? It's later in his career, late 20s, early 30s. He was coming off the bench. He was winning the 6-man of the year like almost every year, it seemed like. Like he was the 6-man of the year for a decade, it felt like. I think that's what Jalen Green is. I think Jalen Green's going to be the dude on a good team in his late 20s, early 30s, where he can get you 20 a night, but you're not counting on him to get you 20 a night. You're not counting on him to be your closer. You're counting on him to give you a scoring punch, early second quarter, late third quarter type of deal. I think that's what Jalen Green is.
I think that's totally fair. And like I said, like I think it's still like it shows like Rafael Stone made a good draft pick. It just didn't work out in the way of development that you would have wanted it to. And that's not a reflection of Stone, I would say. It's just a reflection of what the player is, the draft is. I mean, if he ends up being a 3-time 6-man of the year like Jamal Crawford was, that's a huge win for his career. I mean, Jamal Crawford had an incredible career. He played for 20 years in the NBA. If you could beat Jamal Crawford, like there is not a lot of Jamal Crawfords out there. So like it just doesn't work for the Rockets. I do think to the Alpi point though,
that's why you're not going to get rid of Jalen though. That's why he's not chopped liver and you're going to quit on him. That's why you have to wait for the right opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't Josh Christopher, who apparently is on the Miami Heat, had no idea until Danielle Lerner tweeted that yesterday he was warming up before the game. Like, this is not that. This is not Ty Washington or these guys that people cried about and Rafael Stone took in the middle of the teens in the first round of the draft. Like, this is a guy who you're going to trade for, whether it's, De'Aaron Fox or not Jimmy Butler, but like if there was a Devin Booker trade to be made, like any of these young players who are on the cusp of demanding trades in the NBA, like this is the kind of guy that they're going to want, because like they're going to want something of promise that's not just draft capital in return. And Jalen Green will be that guy, because what we'll see is wherever Jalen Green gets traded to, their fan base is going to cherry pick the hell out of highlights. They're going to say the Rockets are idiots, and they are going to be ecstatic of the player they eventually get in return.
What were you saying about Alpi?
I'm just not sure, like his style of basketball. Like unless the game's going to really change and flip on it, like the way he closes, like they don't. I don't know if that's a guy, like he's not Jokic. Like they're not going. Like, people want to call him Baby Jokic, but like I'm not sure he's really a closer that you need out there. I mean, they're a better rebounding team. It feels like when Steven Adams is on the floor. Everything Alpi needs it feels like it needs to be very European, like soccer, like where like he needs to like flail and complain and draw fouls throughout the entire game. I'm just not sure that's going to work in a closing moment in the playoffs when they call less fouls. Like the way he plays is not playoff basketball. Like he is not going to get the calls that he wants in the playoffs that are working for him. And I think that's why the Rockets need to make the playoffs, obviously, which they will. And like he needs that reality check of just like this garbage that he tries to do at times during the game. Cause I was like where I was sitting last night, it really just like was kind of disgusting to watch him flop around instead of make actual basketball moves and trying to score. He was just foul hunting the whole time.
Yeah, there are some flaws in his game. Like I like Alpi a lot. I
Yeah.
agree with you that he's not the dude that you need to be your creator closer with 2 minutes left to play, down by 3, or the dude that you're isolating at the top of the key with the game is tied, trying to get a game-winning bucket. And I think that's Ime Udoka's limitations to his roster, quite frankly, because I don't think he has a good option. I think that might be your best option. Is it really good compared to the NBA? No. Is Alpi your best option right now with your current roster? Yeah, probably, which is why it speaks to Jalen, which is why it speaks to Fred VanVleet that Alpi Sengun is your best option to be the closer. Like, that's not a great roster build. Like, you need that perimeter guy that can be able to do that. And also, like, his defensive limitations. Like, Ime Udoka will take him out if he needs a defensive stop. Like, we saw it last night. He took Alpi Sengun out for a possession when he needed a defensive stop. So there's some limitations there. Also, did you notice, you might not have, you might have been leaving at this time, Dylan Brooks cussed him out for a shot that he took. Sengun took a 3 up by 5 with 6:12 left in the game with 16 seconds left on the shot clock. And Dylan Brooks, the very next dead ball, cussed him out. Why are you taking that shot? Don't take that shot. He got cussed out by Dylan Brooks. He took a 3 up by 5 with 6:12 left in the game, 16 seconds left on the shot clock. He was acting like he's Steph Curry. Like he's a bad 3-point shooter, and he's shooting a 3, contested 3, with 16 seconds left on the shot clock, and Dylan Brooks let him know about it. I'll post it, actually, because I think I screen grabbed it. I'm going to post it here during the timeout. Like, yeah, like can't be that guy. Can't be that guy.
Yeah.
All right, 713. Go ahead.
No, that's what I think these guys have been brought in here for. It's ironic because Fred VanVleet takes lots of terrible shots, but like at least someone's telling these guys when they're taking bad shots because they take a lot of them.
Yeah, they do. A couple of texts on this. Anthony Edwards was a closer on Friday. The Rockets didn't have an answer. I love Anthony Edwards. I'm so jealous of Minnesota having him. And then another texter said Jordan Clarkson is a comp to Jalen Green. That's not a bad one, too, like when talking about trajectory. All right, 713-780-ESPN. What are your Week 17 hot takes in the NFL? What did you think yesterday watching the league, or Saturday, 3-game Saturday? You're like, you know what? I have a hot take now. What are they? 713-780-3776. Branham and George on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
You're listening to Gallant and George on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5 from the Veritex Community Bank Studios. Here's Paul Gallant and Joe George.
Paul and I have been traded since Branham and George today. Brian's in with us today. We'll see who he lands. What are your Week 17 hot takes? 713-780-ESPN. Games were scattered throughout the week. You had the 2 Christmas game days. You had 3 games on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I saw someone tweet, I don't know how accurate this is, that there were 9 games played yesterday, another one on Monday. They said it was the fewest Sunday games played like in the last 30 years or something. That can't be true, can it?
I mean, no, it probably is, because think about it. Like, you got 2 games on Christmas, Thursday Night Football, Monday, 3 Saturday games. I bet you that's true.
But if you get like a middle of the year bye, like sometimes like 6 teams can be on byes, right? So that takes out 3 games of 16. That puts you down to 13. You have a Thursday nighter that's 12. You have a Monday nighter. Maybe so. Maybe so. That's interesting. I don't mind Saturday NFL once college football is done. We talked about the weekday football the other day. Like that's kind of not great, but I don't mind the Saturday games.
No, I don't mind the Saturday games. I'm fine with that. But it is weird to have. But then again, but then Red Zone's a terrible experience. Like if you're watching, like, this is a great weekend for Red Zone if you're a Texans fan, because they're not playing. Besides the fact that half the games just were terrible, and majority of the quarterbacks are backups playing in the noon window yesterday. Mm-hmm. It also just like having so few games. It's just not very exciting football, honestly. So. That's the only negative about like the drawback of the Saturday games, but Saturday was fun for sure.
Yeah, I don't need NFL Red Zone to be good. I like watching the games in its entirety, quite frankly.
Yeah, it's
like,
championship
to me, it tells
weekend,
more of the story. What do you mean?
It's championship weekend in fantasy football. Like it's the number one Red Zone weekend of the year.
Yeah, that is true. That's a good point. All right, what are your Week 17 hot takes? What do you got? What did you see this weekend? You're like, okay, I'm compelled to have this hot take.
I've missed. You tell me how terrible my takes are. So
I have. I haven't missed that though. I enjoy that. I still tell you.
I know.
I still indirectly tell you that your takes are bad.
Sometimes it's direct.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer them to be direct, but it doesn't stop me from being indirect about it.
The Minnesota Vikings should trade J.J. McCarthy and send Sam Darnold to a new contract. He's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know if I disagree with this a whole lot. One of my hot takes was the Vikings have to bring back Sam Darnold. So how you get there, I think that you probably painted a little bit more of a picture on how to get there. I don't know if I would trade McCarthy, though. Like, why not just keep him?
Yeah, but like, are you going to pay? Like, wouldn't you?
I wonder if you could just tag Darnold, though. Like, now it's kind of weird that you're going to pay Sam Darnold top 5 quarterback money, but the benefit of that is that it's not long term. So if he starts to regress second half of next year, it's like, well, we already have the heir apparent.
It's true, and we saw the way they operated this offseason was honestly it was perfect execution, because they knew what they were getting with Kirk Cousins. They knew to move on. They brought in Sam Darnold, and they drafted a quarterback. Now they're in a position where they can franchise tag Sam Darnold and then trade him if they want to. Like, they could trade him to the 49ers. They could trade him to a different team in the NFL and get assets in return that way, where they can flip McCarthy, or they can keep both of them and let them go into a battle. But if they win on Sunday or the number 1 seed and they go to the Super Bowl or something like that, like I don't know how you keep the locker room and things like that when they clearly love Sam. So honestly, he's been so good this year. It's really impressive. Like, Kevin O'Connell's definitely the coach of the year. I don't think it's even in question that he is the coach of the year this year.
I'm a big fan of him. I think that he's really, really good.
I'm very jealous.
I like him a lot. Yeah, but if it's just so weird, Sam Darnold's career, because he's been not very good. Like, and if he can do that with a not very good quarterback, what can he do with a first round quarterback? So like,
who wasn't very good in college?
Yeah, I mean, he was just not asked to do a whole lot, like, here, hand the ball off. Like, he wasn't asked to be this guy who just goes out and wins a Heisman or put up huge numbers. So I would be curious to see what he can do with McCarthy. That's why I wouldn't be quick to trade him. I guess if you can get like a top 15 pick, then it makes some sense. But I think it makes some sense to tag Darnold and also keep McCarthy. And then that way, if Darnold starts to stink, well, then you have J.J. McCarthy. And there's also not the urgency to trade him. Like, you could trade him next offseason.
Yeah.
So now it wouldn't have as much value because he wouldn't have as much left on his deal.
Don't you think like this is the part, if you're going to do it, like look what's coming in the draft. Like, you've got 3 or 4 teams that need a quarterback, and you've got 2 quarterbacks in this draft. You got Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. I mean, the most I mean, JJ McCarthy is definitely in the mix with those guys, if not a better prospect than at least one of them, I would imagine. So you would think that a team like the Titans or the Giants or the Raiders or these three teams that are desperate for a quarterback right now, one of them might pay you a king's ransom. So you could have Sam Darnold and you could, go up and get Travis Hunter, or you could go get, a wide receiver that if you want to add to your room, or get an offensive lineman or the best defensive player in the draft this year. They have so many options. Like they've done this better than any team in the NFL has handled their quarterback situation, from adding Kirk Cousins and replacing Case to the way they've got here now. They have just executed this perfectly without drafting a first-round pick until JJ, and now it seems like they don't even need him. It's incredible.
Yeah, and maybe it does come down to what you can get for him. Like if there's a certain, price that you have and somebody meets that price, okay, let's do it. But if they don't meet the price, well, you're not in an urgent need to trade them. So maybe it comes down to that price. I would argue, though, like, you're saying perfect execution and how they've handled the quarterback position from like a GM perspective. I think it's more about O'Connell being able to groom quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
And I know he hasn't been there for all of them, but like no one's been able to do this with Sam Darnold. No one. And then Kevin O'Connell has Sam Darnold playing at a level where it makes sense to pay him top 5 quarterback money with a franchise tag. So
Kirk Cousins
got
Kevin benched without really Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like another like credit to him.
Yeah. I like Kevin O'Connell a lot. I think Michael Penix may have it. I think he's really good. Didn't have great numbers yesterday, but they need a final drive. And what does he do? Leads them right down the field. Throws a touchdown pass. Was it on 4th down? I know they converted at least 1 4th down on that final drive. I think Michael Penix, he might have a little bit of it. I don't know how great he's going to be, but that dude seems to be clutch.
Yeah, I like Penix. I mean, look, the rookie quarterbacks this weekend had a great weekend. I mean, you've got, besides, or at least on Sunday, I mean, Daniels and Penix was fun. You got big drives earlier in the day from, I guess just those two guys. I'm thinking about Bo Nix on Saturday, but Bo Nix was like, he has good moments on Saturday's game, like big time throws, bad pick at the end there, obviously in the 4th quarter. But like rookie quarterbacks have hit well, but I'm kind of with you on Penix. He looked good. I'm still curious like what his ceiling is, because like not super accurate, which is kind of feel like something that it's not something we were accustomed to seeing at Indiana or Washington, but it's a second game. Like, I mean, they're fighting for their lives to be in the playoffs, and they're having to bench a franchise quarterback supposedly for him. There's only so much he can do. I'm curious about Atlanta going forward now.
Yeah, they have skill around him too. Like they should be a pretty fun team because they have the skill around Penix. What other hot takes do you have?
Oh gosh. Sorry, my computer froze here for a second. Saquon Barkley is going to play this weekend and get the rushing title.
Yeah, I think he'll play. I think he'll chase it. I think he'll chase after the rushing
Which is
title.
weird because remember earlier in the season when he could have gone for the single game record and chose not to. So like that kind of spits in the face of that. But by the way, I was right about the Eagles for Busy Money that we didn't take. Just for the record.
They covered.
We also didn't miss a game, so we're all right.
I know. We didn't.
No, so far we haven't missed a single game.
Nice.
With Jeremy's Detroit pick yet remaining, but otherwise we're perfect.
Nice. That's good. I had the Eagles winning. They won 41-7. So
yeah, they won by a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not bad. I like that. Speaking of the Lions tonight, I think they should treat all their stars like tonight as a preseason game where they either sit all of them or just play them a series or two. Because the game tonight means nothing now. It means absolutely nothing. It has 0 stakes. Their game against Minnesota will carry all of the stakes in the NFC. It'd be the division title on the line next week, the number 1 seed in the NFC on the line next week. Tonight's game has 0 ramifications. 0 ramifications. I feel like the Lions should make sure that they get their stars right. Don't play them. And I'm not saying this at all because I lead by 4 or 5 points in my championship league and I have a sweat tonight with a couple of Lions on the other team. It has nothing to do with that.
No, honestly, I'm kind of with you. Like next week is going to be, it's set up perfectly. Sunday Night Football, the last game of the season, Vikings, Lions, like it's going to be incredible television. I'm with you. I think if I was Detroit, I wouldn't play my guys. Like I'm not. I mean,
they have what? Why would you?
They have 2 starters?
Because I need Jahmyr Gibbs to get 17.1 points to win my Keeper League championship. That's why they play, Jeremy. Thank you.
No, they shouldn't play. No, Dan Campbell should make sure that Gibbs sits, Goff sits,
everyone
Laporta
else sits, but the offensive lineman and Gibbs have to play.
The Lions have. Am I reading this right? Were the Lions?
He could probably get
did I read
half.
this right? the Lions have the most players on IR in the NFL.
I mean, they're
sound right?
missing.
Sounds right.
They're missing their
I think
entire
it's right.
defense besides 2 guys. Every
I'm
single
pretty
one of
sure
their.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty sure that's right. So if you have all of your players, not all, but if you lead the NFL and most players on the IR, why would you play your stars in a meaningless game in Week 17 where next week has everything on the line?
Yeah, the Lions have 21 players currently on injured reserve, most in the NFL.
Yeah, I did remember that right.
16 defensive players on injured reserve.
And basically,
Don't play
I think
your
their
dudes.
entire
Crazy.
defensive line too,
Yeah, don't play your dudes.
except
Yeah.
for
Don't
Jahmyr
play 'em.
Gibbs.
No, none of them. Play none of them,
Especially-
especially Jahmyr Gibbs and especially Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, especially
Don't
with
play
David
those two
Montgomery being
especially.
out.
Yeah, those two especially. They cannot afford Jahmyr Gibbs being out for multiple weeks. They cannot afford Amon-Ra to be out for multiple weeks. Those guys especially should not be playing in tonight's game. What hot take do you have, Brian?
I think now this is comes with a little bit of a caveat, assuming that the Ravens hold on to the AFC North and are hosting a playoff game. But I think the Chargers are the road playoff team in the first round that teams most don't want to play. They've got the number one defense in points allowed. Herbert's got that upper level that I don't think a lot of these road teams like the Steelers with Russell Wilson, like a lot of these quarterbacks don't have. And I know we've probably spent a lot of time talking about, well, they don't have weapons, but Ladd McConkey has been great as a rookie, and now J.K. Dobbins is back, and he's definitely not the top running back in the playoffs, but he's adequate at least. So I think the Chargers are a dangerous team people want no part of.
I like that. I mean, they've got maybe the best coach in the NFL.
And that, factor that in too. Like you were
NFL.
mentioning, Kevin O'Connell's going to run away with Coach of the Year, and you're probably right. But I think number 2's got to be Harbaugh.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me if Harbaugh won it still. Honestly, the fact that what he's because the turnaround has to matter too, right?
Sure.
And I know the Vikings had a top 10 pick as well to get McCarthy or whatever it was. I guess they might have traded up, but I mean to go from the 5th pick in the draft to a 10-win team in one season with largely the same roster on defense, but you actively chose to get rid of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams and Austin Eckler. So you've changed your offense pretty entirely, and he deserves a lot of credit. It's why he was the best coach on the market, and any franchise that didn't want to hire him is idiots. Yeah, I'm fine with that take. The Chargers being
I wouldn't want to play the Ravens.
It's Lamar.
I said it at the very front of this caveat. I think the Ravens hold on to the AFC North and are a home team. So I'm talking about road teams currently, based upon the current seeding.
Also, wouldn't want to play the Bengals.
Yeah, I don't think the Bengals get in though. So I mean, this is again kind of a speculation.
If the Bengals win on Sunday, Joe Burrow MVP?
No.
I mean the numbers he's put up this season. Him
winning's not enough for them to get in, though. They need to win and have both the Broncos and Dolphins lose.
I think what is Pro Bowl Tyler Huntley going to come to the rest? The Broncos are the problem.
Yeah, because they're facing Carson Wentz.
Most likely.
I think Burrow will finish 3rd in
so,
MVP voting.
So, Jeremy, you think the Ravens are scarier than the Chargers?
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to put a wager on that?
The Ravens and Chargers?
Well, they're going to play
on Jeremy's side here. That's a spicy take, Joe.
They're going to play in the first round of the playoffs. I'll take the Chargers.
You want to take the Chargers over the Ravens?
Yep.
All right. What are the stakes here? If they meet in the first round,
by the way,
Chargers over the Ravens.
I'm not the stakes.
Jeremy. By the way,
yeah, you do owe me. That's a good
time
point.
Time out. I'm not lying here. Okay, I forgot you weren't here today. There's a bottle of Gentle Ben in my car for you, so you'll get it on Thursday.
Okay, that sounds good.
For the record, it's literally
in my car.
We can go
double or nothing. We can go double or nothing. That's fine.
I don't
what do you want the stakes to be?
We can just do another bottle. It's fine with me.
If they play, okay. Well, if you hand me my bottle, I'll hand it to you back if they lose. That's double or nothing. Okay, yeah, that's fine. We'll do that. So you're taking the Chargers over the Ravens
if
should they play?
Yeah. Which I think. I mean, I can't imagine. Even if the Broncos win,
Joe, you're so dumb. I feel bad. Okay, why would you make this bet straight up?
Because
you're going to get the Chargers will be getting points.
Joe.
Yeah, I took advantage of you, but I don't care.
It's gonna be Baltimore at home. They're gonna be like a 3.5, 4 point favorite.
As I was talking that out, I kind of assumed I was getting the points, but I just realized I didn't say that. So we'll do straight up.
Yeah, straight up.
I
took advantage of you. You're like what you're going to turn out to be right though. It's going to be funny.
Yep.
The last one that I have is Aaron. I've been holding on to the Aaron Rodgers thing. I've been holding on to the guy. I like greats that play for a long time. Like I like to watch all-time greats, and Aaron Rodgers is an all-time great. But I think it's time. I think it's time for Aaron Rodgers. I think he's done. I think he's toast. The only thing that would make sense for me would be if Aaron Rodgers went to San Francisco to back up Brock Purdy. That's the only way I want Aaron Rodgers to continue. But other than that,
No.
just leave. Just
No,
go.
we need
you're
the,
not good anymore.
No, we need what the report that came out yesterday to come to fruition. I need Aaron Rodgers in Cleveland. Quarterback competition,
No.
Deshaun Watson.
No, that's not what we need. We need
Give
him,
it to me.
We need him to continue
Hard knocks.
We need him to continue his Brett Favre trajectory. Have Sam Darnold leave in free agency, and now Aaron Rodgers goes to Minnesota because Kevin O'Connell can't lose with any quarterback on earth.
No. I don't need Aaron.
I like
Rodgers
the Garrett Wilson idea. That would be silly if the Jets were to keep Rodgers and trade Garrett Wilson, though.
That would be a wild move.
Even the Jets, who've been traditionally a laughing stock of an organization, even they can't screw that up, right?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know.
Rodgers,
it's the Jets.
Yeah, it is the Jets.
I mean,
that would be
the longest playoff drought in the NFL for a reason.
Did you see what Sauce Gardner said yesterday?
Told Higgins not to come?
Yeah, told Higgins not to come to the Jets. Someone said, someone recruit Higgins to the Jets on Instagram, and tagged Sauce Gardner. And he said, I'm not telling him that.
Well, maybe he really likes Garrett Wilson.
Maybe he really likes, maybe he just really hates the Jets.
Yeah, maybe he does hate the Jets. He also said that everybody might be mailing it in because they've already been eliminated. Yeah, that's what he said. I mean, he said it publicly. Like, not many people say that.
Oh, they definitely mailed it in yesterday.
Yeah, they did do that. Did you see Rappaport's report that the Browns might be interested in Cousins and Rodgers? That makes no sense to me.
Well, they need a quarterback that costs $1 million or $2 million. Kirk Cousins will not cost you much when he gets cut.
I don't know. I think he will. I think Kirk's still going to get some money.
No, it's going to be just like Russell Wilson. He's going to get paid by the Falcons.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So he's going to get the vet minimum. So
that would make more sense than Rodgers then.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. So I could definitely see Kirk Cousins and Deshaun, which is a wild quarterback room. That's a wild quarterback.
Talk about an odd couple.
Yeah,
that's the spectrum. Like you always hear, like opposite ends of the spectrum. That's the spectrum. Kirk Cousins and Deshaun Watson is the spectrum.
A godly man and a pervert.
Yeah. Why don't you like Rodgers Rodgers to San Francisco? What's wrong with that?
I'm fine with that one.
Be with Shanahan.
I mean, it would make sense. Cousins or Rodgers to San Francisco makes sense because I wouldn't pay Brock Purdy $50 million. So. Hard pass on that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Like, just move on from Purdy and pay Rodgers $1 million and spend the money elsewhere.
Yeah.
Pessimistic Chad. Not sure how hot this take is, but man, the Texans aren't close. Another text: love Burrow, but his team let him down. That is true. Another text: the overtime rule. We are changing all the stupid rules. Let's fix the game. Changing the rules sucks. I like the playoff overtime rule. Quite frankly, I don't like the sudden death where a field goal wins it, though. I think that it's better. I think the current NFL regular season rule is better than the old rule. Yeah, quite frankly.
No, totally agree. I think it's better than it was, which is saying something for the NFL.
Let's talk about the Texans. Pessimistic Chad. He doesn't think that they're very close. You had a weekend to let the Texans marinate on you. How you feeling about them? 713-780-3776. It is Branham and George on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5. No, Paul. No, Paul. I've been traded for Paul. It is Branham and George, 713-780 ESPN. Question we're asking you. You've had a weekend to let the Texans marinate. How are you feeling with them? You feeling differently, Joe, after the weekend, the extended weekend? I guess it wasn't extended, but...
No. I definitely do not feel any different about the Houston Texans. They're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs. They're going to finish 9-8. So if you had the over 9.5,
you think they're going to lose this weekend?
Yeah. Even though D'Amico just said, he's talking like the Texans are going to play, like the players are going to play. So, and the spread has gone from like -1 to 3.5 to back to +1 for the Texans. So it's kind of been all over the place, but I don't think they will play the entire game. And I think they will lose this weekend because it's a meaningless football game. So, and unfortunately,
it's not meaningless. It's not meaningless for Tennessee. It would make it's pretty meaningful for the Titans. It would help them if they lose.
Or they can just try to do the Texans did. Win their last game of the season. And it worked out well for the Texans. They got CJ.
It's not the difference between pick 1 and 2, but
it might be. But the Patriots aren't taking a quarterback, so they really the Titans are in position right now to where you're right. They do not want to win this weekend because they have the number 2 pick in the draft. They're going to get most likely, unless New England trades it, they're going to get their shot at Shador or Cam Ward and be good to go. And they're going to play Mason Rudolph and Will Levis this weekend, apparently. So we're going to get...
They're going to play both of them?
They're going to play both of them.
Well, Will Levis is really good against the Texans.
That's
he has
probably
their
why.
number.
They're trying to get the win, see?
No, he's probably just trying to. I don't even know what they're doing. I'd be looking for a new starter if I were Tennessee. Rudolph's awful, and Levis is pretty bad too. Levis can't get over his weaknesses. He has zero feel. Poor guy. Poor guy has zero feel. I think that the Texans will win. I think they'll beat Tennessee. To your point, the quote about playing the starters, D'Amico Ryans was asked. D'Amico Ryans said that everybody has to be ready to go, and that's where we are. Everyone will be out there playing. So that sounds like the starters will be playing. Now, I hope that most of it's coach speak. The defensive guys, I don't really need to see a whole lot of. I don't need to see Daniil Hunter play more than 25 snaps. Same thing for Will Anderson. Same thing for Danico Autry. Christian Harris, he's had weird injuries, 20 snaps. Azeez Al-Shire probably needs some reps because he hasn't played in 3 weeks.
For sure.
So maybe he's at 35, 40. Derek Stingley, I don't need him to play more than 20 snaps. Lassiter, same thing. In the safeties, same deal. The problem is, though, you don't have enough, with 46 guys that are active, you can't replace everybody. But I don't need to see those guys play a ton of football. Now, on the offensive end, I actually want to see those guys play. Their offense has been bad. Let's see if you can try to get a little bit of momentum. And then also you need to get Deontay Johnson implemented into this offense. So I want to see the offense play more than the defense, but both sides of the ball, not the full game.
Yeah, and I think you also have to have feel for it. So obviously, let's say the Titans are, embarrassing Juice Scruggs or whoever's out there on the interior offensive line, and they're hitting CJ a ton. Maybe you have to pivot. But to your point, I think I do agree with you. The offense has been terrible this year, and not that look how they didn't come out any better out of the bye week out of Miami. They won that game 20-12, but they had a whole bye week to get ready for it, and the offense has not looked any better coming out of it. And then now you have the injuries, but now you have Deontay Johnson in the mix. So you're right. The offense should play, I would say, at least the first half. And they should be throwing it, honestly, as much as possible. The game does not matter. Treat it as a live scrimmage. You don't need
preseason game.
Yeah, put Dari back there running the ball. But I don't need, because Joe Mixon would need 134 yards. I think it was Cody Stutes tweeted out that's how much he needs for some contract incentives. Also, don't care.
Yeah, I don't care about Mixon's contract. Ramifications. That is good work though by Cody's Toots. That is good stuff by him. Now, I the one guy on offense that I don't want to play is actually Mixon. I don't think that you need Mixon to play. I do want him to be fresh. He has been a little bit banged up this year. Running backs get hurt a lot. He would be the one exception to the rule offensively.
No, I do agree with you on that, and that's why I think you should throw it a bunch, honestly, and maybe even Dalton Schultz, because it's just been so poor. To be frank, I wouldn't be. I'd be curious. I guess I don't even know where we're at with Cade Stover, honestly, in terms of his recovery from his appendectomy. Now that I think about it, but it's just the more reps that you can get with Deontay Johnson and CJ, the better. He should just throw it to him every play. He can throw 10 picks for all I care. Just get some reps out there. That's what they need this weekend. They need to get some rhythm on offense and figure out how to play, because the way they've played on offense, they've got no shot in the first round of the playoffs if they're going to play like this, unless they win a game was purely with their defense. And you might get that with Pittsburgh because Russell Wilson has not been good. I mean, seeing like going on social media and like seeing Steelers fans clamoring for Justin Fields because of throws he made at Ohio State against Clemson. Like that's where they're at right now as a fan base. I've been their fans. It's okay. But I really, the Texans need to get their offense out there a little bit to just try to find some rhythm because you might get by Pittsburgh. But if you have any hope of winning the next round, you're going to need to score touchdowns.
I think the confidence for CJ Stroud's kind of important too. Like I want to try to and it's tough to do in one game. It's tough to do in 2-3 quarters of football, but it would be a huge win if you could somehow boost CJ Stroud's confidence, because I feel like his confidence has been shaken. I feel like there's been no rhythm. There's been no precision. He doesn't trust his offensive line. I don't think he trusts himself a whole lot right now. He's talking about injuries, even though he hasn't been on an injury report. They need it's tough to do in a week, and I think it's foolish to think it can be done in a week. But if you want to win at least one game in the playoffs, I think helping his confidence would be pretty big against Tennessee too. That's why, to your point about like having some rhythm and feel about when to pull those guys, like you see baseball managers do this a lot, where like a starting pitcher can give them maybe another inning, maybe it can give them 2 or 3 more, batters, but they pull them out a little bit early. That way they leave the game feeling good heading into the next start.
Mm-hmm.
I would have the same thing with CJ Stroud, where it's like, okay, we're going to play this guy 5 series. But let's say after 3 series, like he's had a scoring drive on all 3, I'll pull him after 3, something like that. And that might be kind of foolish of me to think that they can have 3 straight scoring drives, but pull him from the game feeling good. So don't have a fixed number. Like have it after a scoring drive, have it after a touchdown drive. Like make him leave that game feeling good about where he's at.
God, I hate to be like a super pessimist here, but what if they're just terrible?
They'll be going into the wild card round the same way they're going into Tennessee.
Yeah, like the idea of CJ being banged up, it really, I don't know. D'Amico, when he met with the media today, I don't know if you saw this one yet, Jeremy, but he said, quote, "The piece about CJ being banged up, I think that is real. It's real for everyone in this league at this time of the year." Like that just to me feels like someone that's just like dinged up. That doesn't feel like something that would be deserving of an injury report. So he's sore. But like if he's gonna get hit a bunch, maybe it is better for him. I don't know. It's complicated because
I wouldn't sit him.
Like
there's always risk to whatever you do in life. There's risk of you going down the elevator and getting stuck.
No,
like there's always risk.
No, I agree with you. And honestly, like the part of the thing with CJ is about confidence, though, is while this game it's important for him to get his confidence back, he also just needs to figure it out. If you want to be this franchise quarterback, if you want to rank yourself in front of Josh Allen on a podcast in the offseason, like you want to call yourself a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, just like figure it out, dude. Like look at Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has been dominating this year when his defense is giving up 40 points a game, when he's been hurt multiple times, missed multiple seasons, like parts of seasons because of injuries. Like there's no lack of confidence from Joe Burrow. There's no lack of confidence from Josh Allen when he loses Stephon Diggs or Patrick Mahomes when he loses Tyreek Hill. Like if CJ wants to really be like that dude, the confidence part of this, which is clearly a problem, shouldn't be. Like he needs to just figure it out because like that's what the best quarterbacks in the NFL do.
Yeah, it's just I think it's difficult to do in 9 days, Joe.
It's more of a criticism about the fact that we're here, Jeremy.
I would love to hear your like pep up talks. Like you're giving these coaches speaks before the game. All you guys just need to figure it out. Dude, you sound like D'Amico Ryan. It's all about execution. My game plan is perfect.
Like this
just
is where
go
like
figure it out.
This is where the podcast stuff. Like I'll go back to it. Like I brought it up. Like Paul gave me grief about it. But like you're gonna talk that much smack about like being like him and the guy and a dog and like all that stuff, and then like you get hit a lot. Cool. Like figure it out, CJ. Like be the dude.
Hey, Joe, these mics aren't working. Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Brian
man.
calling Joe, hey, automation is down. Figure it out.
No,
AD's calling Joe, the satellite's down again. Figure it out.
Yeah, like
that's what Joe does. That's why he's our fearless leader. That's why he's our figure it out.
I don't know. CJ's just gotta get it together, man. Like
I just don't think. I think it's an off-season thing. I don't think it's a 9-day thing.
Like why if it's gotten this bad, where like it's so clear he's scared in the pocket. Or, like,
his offensive line stinks.
I agree, but like, why would it change between like what gives you confidence that like his issues that he's run into, his feel of the game, and like everything that's gone wrong this season offensively, how it will magically get fixed this offseason.
Well, I think a lot can change it over the course of an offseason. Like a lot of things change in offseason. Like the offensive line can give him more trust. The skill position players could give him more trust. He could take better stock of his own game and have an offseason where he gets way better. I mean, that happens a lot in sports where players get way better in an offseason. I don't think that that's crazy. I think it's crazier to think that in 9 days that it's going to be totally different. And whenever I say get his confidence up and build a little bit of momentum, it's more of a Band-Aid. It's not going to be this drastic improvement. It's more of a, can I get him playing 5 to 10% better in the playoffs? You're managing the season. What can you do to put your team in the best chance to succeed in the wild card round? That's how the Texans should view Week 18.
Totally agree.
What do we need to do that puts ourselves in the best chance to win a wild card game at home a week from when you play Tennessee? And that's why I think defensively you don't really need to do anything. You don't play your dudes. But on the offensive side, I think there's quite a bit that you can take from playing those guys a few series that would be beneficial to the playoffs.
No, I definitely do agree with you that it should be beneficial for the playoffs. But if it doesn't go well, if they struggle to protect CJ, then there's really no point to keeping him in the game. Where if he is banged up the way he said it, which it's not a full on excuse, but even he said it sounds like a bad excuse when he said it. You can't leave him
immediately.
out there.
He said it in the same breath.
Yeah, he just he knew as soon as the words came out of his mouth, he wanted it back, which I kind of appreciate. We've all been there. I've had plenty of takes where I've wanted things back as soon as I've said them. But if he's getting hit hard, they do have to take him out. Where that I think they're what you're saying there's a delicate balance. So I'll ask you this, as someone that points out weekly in these losses, going back to last year, Jeremy.
I never complain.
Do you trust DeMeco Ryans to have that feel?
Oh no, I don't.
To take these guys out?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
I don't at all either. Feels like if they're out there, they're just gonna play until they get hurt.
Yeah, I don't have. I don't have any faith in his feel. No, I'm with you on that. Texans can be good in the playoffs, but they just have to want it, and CJ just has to lead. Figure it out.
No, I think no. They want it.
He just has to want it.
They just don't got it.
The Texans, what we've learned in this segment, Texans have to figure it out, and they have to want it. That's how they're going to win in 2024. Another texter replying to the Texans, look forward to 2025.
Yeah, you got 2 more games left.
Yeah, I think they have 3. I think they're going to win the wild card game at home. I do. All right, 713-780-ESPN. I have to give the Astros credit with something so far this offseason. What is left on your Astros checklist this offseason? 713-780-3776. It's our new show, Branham and George, on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
This is Gallant and George.
On ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
Now back to Paul and Joe inside the Veritex Community Bank Studios.
Jeremy and Joe, after the blockbuster trade that saw Paul and I traded for each other. 713-780-ESPN.
Just throw this crap out there to get clicks.
Granado was not part of the trade. YouTube Keith, I had to listen to other stations this morning. Yuck. Sorry about that, YouTube Keith. You can take that up directly with Joe. He schedules us.
Not
Joe,
my
do you
fault.
want to comment?
It's not my fault.
Do you schedule us?
Did I schedule this show?
Do you schedule the station?
I don't schedule people's vacation time.
He's ducking. He's ducking, Brian.
What?
That's what's happening right now.
What am I
He's
ducking?
He's gaslighting. He's doing a bunch. Do you schedule the shows?
I schedule what's on from noon to 3 this week.
He's still ducking. Who sends out the show log each and every week?
Me.
That tells us what. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So
Yeah.
you're the better one to answer that question.
Yeah, people took
Than I am.
vacation time. I'm sorry you had to listen to other stations. I do apologize for that.
It's awful. It's a travesty. It really is.
I
One
wish
thing
it wasn't
that
like that, but it's out of my control.
Joe, I would have worked 12 hours if you asked me. I'm an Iron Man. I'm willing to do. I'm a company man. I'm a good soldier.
I'm a dog.
Yeah, there you go. Brian knows. Brian, I would have worked 12 hours for
All
you,
right,
Joe.
next
I would, not
year.
only
Next
not only
year.
because of you, because I am loyal to you. I'm thankful for what you do for me, but also I'm thankful and loyal to the listener, and I don't want the listener to have to move the dial if they don't want to.
Yeah.
And also because I like to comp the PTO days. Mostly that. It's mostly that. But the other two things are valid. Those things do count.
Well, next year, you and B-Mac can work 12 hours.
I'm
Sorry,
in.
sorry, Brian.
No problem. No problem. That sounds like 4 comp days to me.
I do not sign up for the 12-hour shift, Joe, just for the record. I don't
I'll
have
make it
that
fun,
dog that
Brian.
Jeremy has.
I'll bring pizza.
No, you won't. You'll do your show from remote.
Yeah, probably. That's probably true. 12 hours inside of a Motel 6. I have to give credit to the Astros for something that they've done this offseason. So far, this offseason's not complete by any stretch of the imagination, at least not for me. If the Astros don't do anything else this offseason, I will not think it's a good offseason. But one thing I have to give credit to Jim Crane and the entire front office for is that they were not held hostage by Scott Boras. I admire that. I appreciate that because I do think that Alex Bregman was plan A for them. I think they really did want Alex Bregman back. But the moment that Scott Boras was holding them hostage for one Alex Bregman, they were able to pivot quickly, and got some good things done. So I want to give credit to Jim Crane for that because I knock Jim Crane. I don't love the fact that they got rid of James Click. I don't love the way the front office has operated since they moved on from James Click. But I do give credit to an owner that will not be held hostage by an agent over their plan A. Here's our number. You better take it. If you don't take it, we're going to do some other plan Bs that we have set that are our goals if we don't get Bregman done. So I want to give Crane a little bit of I want to give him some compliments in that regard.
I think that's totally fair. I mean, like you have to. Dana Brown started talking about pivoting as soon as the offseason started when he was asked about Alex Bregman. I think that was a clear sign to Scott Boras and Alex that they were not going to wait around till February to fill the third base void. Because if you trade Kyle Tucker like they did, you have Isak Paredes. That's great, but you're going to wait until February to make a decision on Alex Bregman? Like, how did that work out for the Astros the last time this happened? Well, Carlos Correa still signed a 3-year contract with opt-outs with the Minnesota Twins. It's not like he re-signed in Houston for that same contract. He took a lesser deal in Minnesota than he could have gotten in Houston because of that. And eventually it worked out for him. Like, Alex Bregman was not going to sign in Houston for a 3-year, $60 million deal in which he could have opted out after the first year. That was never going to happen. So I definitely think they acted in the right approach, and I'm with you. They can't be done yet. I definitely don't think they are done yet. They've got at least, I think, 2 more moves that are going to happen this offseason. One of them might be a little out of their control with Ryan Presley. But overall, I think they've done a fine job this offseason.
All right, so what are those 2 moves? You alluded to one. What's the other?
Well, trade Ryan Presley for something in the outfield. And then I think you also then have to still replace that bullpen arm. What are you going to go into next year? Do you believe in Taylor Scott? It's Scott and Abreu and Hader are your guys. Is Rafael Montero part of your big league roster plans next year? I mean, he's still an Astro, right?
Yeah, he is still an Astro.
So, is Forrest Whitley part of your plan? Is Wisniewski part of your plan?
I think Wisniewski's the number 5 starter if you penciled it in today.
So, what's your 5?
Well, your number one would be Fromber.
Hunter
Brown would be your 2. Renell Blanco, Spencer Arrighetti, in whatever order, your 3, 4. And then Wisniewski would be your 5. And I'm not counting the injured guys just because I don't know where they are. Like Luis Garcia could be your number 5 starter if he's back, which could bump Wisniewski to the pin, or your 6 starter, or your long guy. Lance McCullers, I guess, could be back, although that sounds funny to say. I can't even get that out without laughing. So like I don't want to account for the injured guys to be in that rotation. So if you go non-injury guys, those are your 5. It's Fromber, Brown, Arrighetti, Blanco, and Wisniewski.
Okay. So when I was thinking about it, I was counting the 2 injured players, or really one of them is that's what I'll say. I think there's 6 guys for 5 spots because the odds tell you that between Garcia and McCullers, one of them will be available the first week of the season. Most likely both of them, and then Lance will be out after a month. So yeah, I think you have to trade Ryan Presley. I think it's you trade him and his contract to someone for a low risk, kind of similarly expensive outfield bat. Like I think that's where you get your lefty outfield bat, is through trade of Ryan Presley, which doesn't seem like it'll be that much of an upgrade. But honestly, over McCormick and Myers and Dubon, whoever you trade for is going to be better than at least one of those guys. So you're improving your outfield in the slightest. And then I think they still add at least one more bullpen arm.
Yeah, Alex says 6-man rotation if Garcia's healthy. I could see that too. They do like a 6-man rotation. And also you can manipulate it too based on like the schedule, where like you're kind of bouncing between a 5-man, 6-man rotation depending on when your days off are. I'm okay with another bullpen arm. I don't think it's a necessity though. I think it's more of a luxury. I think you can go into next season and into opening day with what you currently have. I don't think you have to have it. But but if you signed the best reliever you could for $3 to $5 million on a 1-year deal, would I be opposed to that? Obviously not. But part of the reason that I don't think that they'll sign another reliever is because I think it's going to be very difficult to trade Ryan Presley. I think Ryan Presley has negative trade value, quite frankly. And I also don't think that Ryan Presley would accept a trade to 2/3 of the league. So I think it's very difficult to trade him. I feel like you would have already traded him. Yeah, I do. I don't see a scenario that exists where Ryan Presley gets traded.
I thought it would have been Bellinger, to be honest. That was always my thoughts all along. And then obviously we got that report that the Astros didn't want Bellinger because of what he said in the past, which that's fair. I totally get that. I thought that was the kind of player that you trade Ryan Presley for.
Even then, like Bellinger, they had to eat some of his contract, but they got like a prospect out of that,
Yeah.
Maybe there's a bat out there, an outfield bat that exists that's, a team's trying to get rid of a $15 million salary, and it's like, hey, we'll take Presley, but then Presley has to agree to that trade. So if that outfield bat's on, let's just say, I'm just throwing out a random team here, that outfield bat is on Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Is Ryan Presley accepting a trade to Pittsburgh? I doubt it. So I think that Ryan Presley is very difficult to trade. Plus, if you're a team that why are you trading for Ryan Presley? You can find a reliever that's better than Ryan Presley, that's cheaper than Ryan Presley.
I think if you're trading for Ryan Presley, you're banking on the 8th inning thing. That it's the problem. That he's still a good closer.
I think we as viewers of baseball overrate that whole, well, this guy's better in the 9th inning than the 8th inning.
Yeah, but
I don't think that Ryan Presley is one of the top 50 relievers in baseball. Close. He might even be a top 100 reliever in baseball anymore.
I think he's better. Is he that much worse than? Is he worse than Aroldis Chapman?
I think so. Yeah, I think Aroldis Chapman was better last year, and he got $10 million for 1 year, whereas Presley's making 14 and a half.
Yeah.
So you can find better relievers for single digits. I'm talking about in the millions here. You could find a $7 to $9 million reliever that's better than Ryan Presley.
So you're
for a 1 year deal.
So you're expecting Presley to be the 7th inning guy next year, most likely. Hopefully less.
Yeah, I would hope they could find something like you're talking about, where they can find this left-handed bat that's on a comparable contract to Ryan Presley, that another team's like, hey, let's trade. We have a surplus of outfield that, 1 year bad deal. Let's add to our bullpen 1 year bad deal, and a swap like that would make some sense, but Presley has to accept that. That would be nice. I hope that could get accomplished. I have doubts that it could. I'm okay not adding an arm, especially if you keep Presley. I would like to trade Presley because it clears a lot of money. I don't think it's possible. I would like to add 2 outfield bats. One of them is Jason Hayward. I think that you need a right fielder. This whole Dana Brown, we're going to use Chas McCormick as our right fielder next year. Good luck with that. All you Astro fans, it will take 10 games where you're ready to move Chas McCormick out of right field. His arm is so bad, the other teams are going to kill the Astros going 1st to 3rd. Chas McCormick is not a right fielder. He cannot. He's questionable whether he's even a starting outfielder with the year he had last year. The Astros sent him down last year. Let's not forget about that. But even if he gets back to 2022 form or 2023 form, yeah, if he gets back to 2023 form, he's still not a right fielder. His arm doesn't play in right field. So I want them to sign a right fielder. Doesn't have to be great. I'm okay with Jason Hayward. Jason Hayward's going to give you a very good defense in right field. But I would also like to sign another outfielder. That way they can compete with Chas McCormick in case he sucks. They can compete with Jake Myers in case he sucks. And it'll be Randall Gruchik. Like, I think you can get both of those guys pretty cheap. I think you can get Hayward. I think you can get both of them. I know you would have Gruchik and you wouldn't have Tucker. But I think that you could get both of them like relatively cheap. So now you have Jason Hayward as your starting right fielder. Gruchik can compete with Chas, can compete with Jake Myers. You have some options with Joe Espada playing the hot hand, all of these things. I think it completes your outfield better, and I don't think it'll be super expensive.
Honestly, and I'm at the point too where like I'm kind of just saying, like, screw it with your outfield. Like, it's gonna be bad. So if it's gonna be bad, why isn't Melton just up opening day?
See, I don't want Melton up opening day because I want a veteran bar that he can beat. So like signing Gruchik and signing Hayward doesn't put a roadblock in front of Melton. Because if Melton just comes in spring training and kills it, or he has a great month in Sugarland, well, you're not going to be opposed to being like, hey, Melton, you're going to start over Hayward in right field now, and Hayward, you're going to be our reserve outfielder.
Why would you be reserved about him starting over Jake Myers and Chas McCormick?
I'm not sure he's ready. I'm not sure that Melton's ready, which could hurt his development. He didn't play a ton of games in Sugarland, and he wasn't great in Sugarland. So I don't want to call him up before he's ready because you could ruin a player that way. I want him to go beat somebody out. I don't want to hand him a job.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I feel like if you have Myers, McCormick, Gruchik, Hayward, that's not great, but it's better than where you currently are. And it's also nothing long-term, nothing that you can't get out of, nobody that's stopping Jacob Melton if he is ready. And it's also nobody stopping the kid that you traded from the Cubs. If they play him in right field and he's crushing it, and he's in AAA at the start of the year and he's crushing it, well, then you can call him up and you can play him in right field.
Yeah, I know. And I know Dana Brown said on Buster Olney's podcast earlier this year that he wants Yordan Alvarez to primarily be the DH. Will the team just be better off, you think, playing Singleton at DH and having Yordan in left?
No, that's gross. No, Singleton's not a great bat. And I don't want Yordan to play left field. Like
I know,
you need Yordan Alvarez in this lineup. It's better if Yordan Alvarez never plays left field, even if it costs you a little bit in your lineup every day. Like he should not be a left fielder. He should be your David Ortiz, only DH. 713-780-ESPN. Let's go out to the HRMP listener line. Larry, you're in the Hive with Gallant or with George and Branham.
Yeah, I was wondering, do y'all foresee Forrest Whitley coming up this year, having more time on the mound? And I guess he answered Singleton about Singleton being in the outfield or DH. And when do y'all see Cam coming up? The next year or two? I'll hang up and listen.
For me, I don't want to see Singleton in my lineup. I'm not even sure that Singleton is a guarantee to make this team.
I agree.
It kind of depends what you want to do with like the flexibility. Like if for me, if you're signing two outfielders, that means you're probably moving on from Singleton, which I'm okay with. But they probably won't do that. They'll probably sign one outfielder, probably a right fielder, and then they'll probably keep Singleton on the team. I think Singleton's going to be your late game pinch hitter against righties whenever Jake Myers are coming to the plate. I don't see him starting much. He's definitely not going to play the outfield. And I don't want him DHing because I don't want Yordan Alvarez playing the outfield. I think Forrest Whitley with a good spring training could make the team out of camp. I think he could be on the 26-man roster out of camp. If he stays healthy, he's pitching well in spring training, I think he could be one of your best 8 relievers that you have in this organization. So I would not be shocked if Forrest Whitley, A, makes the team out of camp, or then B, helps this team at some point. I think Cam Smith with the super aggressive, like he's crushing it at the minor league level, I think the earliest ETA we could see for him, I think it could happen in the summer of next year. Now, he would have to be killing it. He'd have to be killing it, and your outfielders would also have to be struggling. So he'd have to kill it. Your outfielders would have to be struggling. He'd have to see some AAA pitching. But I think best case, super aggressive, summer of next year, but I think it's more likely opening day of 2026.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't played. He played in three games in the minors or whatever. He played like he played in over. He played in over 30, but 5 in the outfield. In the outfield.
Oh, in the outfield.
And not even in the minors. In the Cape Cod League, he played in 3 games at 20 years old. So that was in 2023. I mean, he's not going to be your open. He's not going to be a third baseman for the Astros unless they trade Paredes. Like if
Dana said he's going to play all three positions. He said he's going to play third, first, and right.
Well, but first and third are locked up. So like he's got to just play right field in the minors. Like it would be a mistake to have him play third and first right now, wouldn't it? Just put him in right field.
I don't think that you can look at your major league roster when you're looking at player development. I think that you have to look out for the player, and then whenever he gets super close to the big leagues is when you start to worry specifically about position. But I'm not worried about Cam Smith like playing third base early this year in the minors because you have Isaac Paredes.
Yeah.
Like things change and things change quickly. Like you groom the player, you get him to where he's close to major league ready, and then you start to look for a path to the bigs once he is close to there. He's not there yet. Maybe he's there in June. And then in June, if you have a spot in right field, okay, well, you're going to play 3 weeks in right field, get you ready, and then we're calling you up. But you can't be worrying about it yet.
Yeah.
All right, 713-780-ESPN, HRP listener line, 713-780-3776. Get to our 10-minute drill with Branham and George next on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5. Mostly true. I'm in for Paul. We were traded. 10-minute drill, catchy name. Not always 10 minutes, but it's catchy. We like the name. It's very catchy, trendy. Saquon Barkley goes over 2,000 yards yesterday. He needs 101 yards to surpass Eric Dickerson's record. Remember the Texans almost signed him, Joe? Remember Nick Casterio was like $1 million or $2 million shy of Saquon? They're line in the sand. What do you think he would have looked like with the Texans this year?
He would have been better than Mixon's been, but I don't think much better because of how bad the offensive line is.
Yeah.
Like he's definitely not chasing down the record, right?
Oh, no chance. He's nowhere near 2,000.
Yeah. Like what?
He probably has more yards than Mixon, especially if he stays healthy. But no, he's nowhere near 2,000. Like best case scenario, 1,500?
That's what I was thinking. I was just thinking 1,500. Yeah.
Is that being too nice?
Does he get
Texans offensive line?
Does he get the hip drop tackles that have happened to Joe Mixon as well with being on the team?
Yeah.
Then I'm going to say 1,400 probably.
Are you cool with Eric Dickerson rooting against him passing his record?
I would much rather there be more Eric Dickersons out there because it's a better story than the cheesy Dolphins story. Like I'm kind of tired of hearing about them popping champagne because someone doesn't go to 7-0. It's stupid.
I kind of like it.
I'm kind of over it. I
like it.
At this point, just want it to happen, so it's over. I think it's the dumbest, cheesiest thing we do in the NFL right now. I'm fine.
I like it. I like it when teams or players root against their record ever being broken. I think it's authentic. I think it's real. Like you never want your record to be broken. Like, are you going to be a jerk whenever it happens and like not be a pro? No. Like you're not going to be sassy about it.
You see the Brett Favre video that came
with
out?
The dude with the sack?
Yeah. Where he got in his face. Yeah,
so uncomfortable.
That was great.
Awesome.
I was hoping he'd punch that smug man in the face. Like I was ready for it, but didn't
I was
happen.
hoping he would punch Brett Favre in the face.
That's what I meant. Like I was hoping Brett Favre I was ready for Brett to get knocked out.
What did he go? He said, he's like, you want it back now or whatever? And he's like, no, it would hurt me. He goes, well, you hurt me, Brett. It made me, well, you hurt me, Brett. Yeah, I like it when people root against or root for their own records to stand. It's true. It's authentic. And then whenever they get beaten, well, go applaud the guy. Go shake his hand. Don't be a jerk about it once it gets broken. But yeah, I mean, I have no problem with it at all. Commanders clinch a playoff spot. I don't think many people had the Commanders making the playoffs at the start of the year. Great job by Dan Quinn, Chayton Daniels, and also Cliff Kingsbury. You can't sleep on Cliff Kingsbury.
First time they've made the playoffs. It's been like 3 years since they made the playoffs, something like that. Only
feels like longer than that.
Maybe it is much longer than that.
Remember they made it like a 9-8 year. I think they might have even won a playoff game. Remember they had Chase Young.
I think they made it like a 7-9 team.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Oh, that's
not
right.
that long ago.
I think you're right.
But I think they won a playoff game. I think they won the wild card round. Because I want to say it was in Chase Young's rookie year.
No,
everybody's like, oh, look, Chase Young, he's going to go nuts.
I think they just went toe-to-toe with Brady. Didn't they? And the year they won the Super Bowl?
If only there was a Google machine that
I know.
Tell us about this.
Congrats to them, though.
Last time, they did lose in the wild card round. They were 7-9. They won the division at 7-9.
Oh my God!
And they lost in the wild card round to Tampa Bay, 31-23.
They're up.
They're up. Yeah, Joe nailed it.
See,
Washington.
I'm the Google machine.
They never. Also, it was also kind of like a late game cover. Like they were down multiple possessions, start of the early fourth quarter. They never led in that game, but it was a close one at the end. Yeah, good job, Joe. Good recall.
But congrats to the Commanders and their young quarterback.
Yeah, it's good. Did you see their defensive back Jeremy Reese proposed to his girlfriend following the win?
Oh, she said yes, right?
I think
you have to say yes.
I never got that far in the story. I wasn't that interested.
Jeremy Pena's got a new girlfriend. I saw that.
Yeah, he does.
Yep.
Well, these Houston athletes are dating a bunch of soccer players. Like JJ did it. Pena's doing it.
Trying to get good athletes.
You know what Jeremy Reeves, though, whenever he proposed to his girlfriend, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Correa when he did it with Daniela.
No, that's not.
It's almost the same.
A playoff spot, not the same as winning a World Series.
Yeah, it's a little different.
But it was after the game.
Yeah, I know, but
that was the similarity.
Not the same,
it's closer to Boise State. It's closer to the Boise State kid.
Yeah.
How?
Yeah, it's closer to Boise State for sure.
No, Correa and Boise State, dude, closer to each other than Jeremy Reeves.
No, because Boise State wasn't a meaningless bowl game.
Well, it was beating
like
Oklahoma.
the Fiesta Bowl.
It was beating Oklahoma.
Oh, and it wasn't meaningless. It would have been a New Year's Six bowl game. It was like a BCS game.
Yeah.
It's like the biggest win in Boise State history. That Boise State guy and Carlos Correa closer on this spectrum than anything that Jeremy Reeves did.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, if you're ranking the three, Correa at the very top, Boise State guy, Jeremy Reeves, but Boise State guy closer to Correa than he is Jeremy Reeves.
I would agree with that order. Yeah,
are we all on the same page there?
Yeah.
I would say that all after game proposals are cheesy though.
I do agree with that.
Not a huge fan of it. Drew Lock and the Giants. They're going to cost the Giants the number 1 pick.
So Shedeur
True
Sanders.
luck.
So Shedeur Sanders Giants cleats he wore this weekend are not going to work out for him.
You're not worried about Shedeur going number 1 though, right? Like
No.
unless the Patriots trade the pick.
Yeah,
like I
unless they
still
trade
feel
the
like the
pick.
Giants can get Shedeur.
I think he'll be a Giant. I think they trade for it.
I do too. I think they're going to.
Right now the Giants would have what, the 3rd pick,
The 4th pick.
4th.
It's New England, Tennessee, Cleveland, Giants.
I mean, you could trade for 4 to 1. It's not the cost wouldn't be something they couldn't pay, but still, obviously, the price has gone way up from what it was a few weeks ago.
Those 3 teams also wouldn't be drafting quarterback, so I think it would lessen the cost for the Giants to trade up.
I think so because whoever does want to take quarterback is going to trade up to 1. So I think
but the Giants would have the best pick to negotiate from.
No, Tennessee.
Well, I don't think Tennessee's going to take a quarterback.
You don't?
Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, I guess they could.
You don't think Cleveland would take a quarterback potentially?
No,
I don't think Cleveland
Really?
will. I think Tennessee
not
will,
with the
though.
Watson deal.
You don't think Cam Ward is like you?
Would you want to
You
put
have
a
Deshaun Watson groom Cam Ward?
Yeah, exactly. Why don't put a rookie quarterback with Deshaun Watson?
It's a good point. It's a good point.
No, I don't think they'll draft quarterback. Tennessee could. You're right. Tennessee could. Jets candidates. They're going to interview Rex Ryan and Ron Rivera. Why even put that out there?
Yeah, I think the Bears are going to hire.
Rex Ryan put it out himself.
Yeah.
Probably, but why would you even put it out there that you're I think Ron Rivera might be a Rooney Rule.
But see,
actually.
I think Ron Rivera, okay, what the Jets need is someone to get them to the middle, get them to 500, or be respectable before you hire the next guy. Like he's the guy to get you to the guy, because they're just a clown show, and at least Ron Rivera can stable a franchise.
I mean, Saleh had him at 7-9 just 2 years ago.
That's true.
So it wasn't like they're that far from the middle before this all went south this year.
I mean, if a teenager is calling the shots, I don't think either of them will be like that coach.
No,
It'd probably be Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that. Did you see Pat McAfee with the too long didn't read Twitter post blasting the Colts?
Yeah, he went
How about that? That was awesome. I loved it.
If I was going to put this in overreactions, but we ran out of time. Don't the Colts have to clean house of everybody but Steichen with how bad this season has been?
Steichen.
I mean, maybe you throw Steichen in too, but if you still believe in Steichen and maybe you blame them not making the playoffs last year on losing the quarterback for most of the season, I think I'd be ready to clear a house of everybody but Shane Steichen. Certainly the DC's got to get axed after giving up 45 to the freaking Giants. And I wouldn't keep Chris Ballard around either at this point.
I very much agree so. I would move on. I would definitely move on from Anthony Richardson. He quit on his team.
Can you move on? I mean, you can trade him, I guess, but
move on.
I'd rather bring in Kirk Cousins or I don't know.
Chris
I don't want a quitter on my team like that. Sorry.
No, I'm with you. I just don't know what their option is to move on. He's still under contract for 2 more years.
Yeah, you'd have to trade him for pennies on the dollar. I think that'd be the only scenario. Chris still high on Levis. No, I'm not high on Levis. I think Levis sucks. I think his weaknesses that I thought he can improve never improve. He has 0 feel for the game. He gets destroyed by rushers because he just doesn't feel
no pocket presence.
No pocket presence. Doesn't read a defense. Terrible.
As a gift to you, Jeremy, I promise you, I will buy you for the kindness of my heart a Will Levis Houston Roughnecks jersey. Okay, because that's where he's headed.
I don't like minor league football. Minor league football stinks.
But it's a Houston team, and Will Levis will be on it. So, congratulations.
Do you like any Houston minor league teams?
No, not really.
People overrate my love for Will Levis. I mostly did it as a troll because it irritated people. 713-780-ESPN. I didn't think he was talented, though. I won't back that down. I did think he was talented.
I mean, the Texans defense makes him look talented.
They do. They do. Just get D'Amico. If he played the Texans each and every week, he'd be a Pro Bowl quarterback. What are your New Year's resolutions for the 3 pro teams in Houston? 713-780-3776. It is Branham and George on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
Broadcasting live from the Veritex Community Bank Studios, it's Gallant and George.
On ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
No Gallant today. Paul and I have been traded. Blankers traded me. So I'm in with Joe, noon to 3. No local stuff tomorrow, no local stuff on the 1st. We'll be playing the college football games, the playoff games. We'll talk about that in a little bit. New Year's resolutions for the 3 teams, the 3 pro teams in this city. 713-780-ESPN. What are they for you? Let's go around the horn here. We'll do one now. We'll do a couple coming up at the top of the hour. Which team do you want to start with, Joe? You want to go alphabetical order? Is there one that's just you're dying to get to? Ooh, how do you want to do the order here?
Which one do you want to spend the least amount of time on? I think is the way to do it.
All right, let's go with the Rockets.
Yep, I agree with you.
There you go. Let's start with the Rockets. What is your New Year's resolution for the Rockets?
I think you need to make a firm decision about the future of Jalen Green by the end of the year, whether he's a cornerstone piece of your franchise or he's no longer on the team. I think when the opening tip-off starts of the 2025-26 season, that it should be the decision has been made on the future of Jalen Green. I think that's your resolution this year. Let's make a decision.
The issue that I have with that, though, is what if that opportunity doesn't present itself? Like, what if that star that you want to trade for isn't there? You have to keep them.
Yeah, great counter, of course. I think that...
Of course, you're right, of course.
I just think that my gut tells me that it's been really quiet in the NBA right now, and it's going to happen this offseason. Like, I think we're getting ready for some chaos to unfold across the league. So I think that opportunity will present itself. That's why I have it on there. If it doesn't, then you're right. Then they're kind of in stalemate mode, and it's still wait and see.
My New Year's resolution for the Rockets is that they win a playoff round. Like, let's win a playoff round with a young team and feel really good about the direction of this team, even if you don't move on from Jalen Green, because I think they're capable of doing it even without Jalen Green. Quite frankly, I think their defense is good enough to carry them. I think that you have their offense isn't great, but I think you have enough offense if you finish high enough in the standings where you can win a playoff round. If they win a playoff round, I'll feel really good about things. Like, I feel happy about them. It wouldn't really change my opinion of their trajectory, but it would just feel good again to win an NBA playoff series in Houston. So that's where I'm at with them. Will you have one, Brian, with the Rockets?
Yeah, mine is kind of similar to Joe's, but it's not specific to Jalen Green. I just think they have to, before this season is over, identify who the guy either is or isn't on this team. If they come to the conclusion that neither Şengün or Jalen Green is the guy, they have to make another step after that to find that person to complement the rest of the roster. That's fine. Or if they believe Jalen or Alperen is the guy, that's fine as well. I don't want to go into next season still kind of middling around with like this collection of this, the core 6 or core whatever, and not knowing what your long-term plan is going forward for the guy to lead the team.
Yeah. I think we all agree that it's probably Jalen that's the odd man out.
Probably.
Could it be both?
No, I don't think so.
Really? I don't think they would trade both.
Yeah, I just wonder. Like, if you don't think Alpi can close games and you're not sold on Jalen either, like, could you move on from both?
Well, because the guy that you'd be, upgrading from Jalen would hopefully be your closer.
Be the guy, yeah.
And then Alpi would be his Robin.
Yeah,
which I think is his best role, quite frankly.
Yeah, because I'm still very
Drink.
I don't want to trade Amen Thompson. Like, that's my number one guy I don't want to trade personally.
I'm with you on that. I like him in a lot. Now, his offensive game needs some work. Like, let's call a spade a spade. His offensive game is not very good.
I think it's going to get there, though. I think it's going to.
Shot?
I don't know if the shot's going to get there, but I think he'll be able to be. The shot will be good enough to where they're not going to be able to play. They're not going to treat him like Russell Westbrook, I don't think. Where they're going to have to, I think he's going to be, because he doesn't take them that often. And I think he's going to be athletic enough, at least early on, where, remember, they used to sag off Russell Westbrook like that early on in his career. It didn't matter because he was so athletic. I think Amen can do that. And then it's down the road is more of the question.
Yeah,
but
maybe so. Let's get to the other teams. Astros, Texans, we'll get yours as well. 713-780-ESPN. What are your New Year's resolutions for the 3 pro teams in Houston? 713-780-3776. It's Branham and George on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5. Nope, no Paul. He and I have been traded. It is Branham and George now. Are you sweating this Iowa-Missouri game at all, Joe?
No. There's a game on?
You don't have some scunion on it?
No, I do not.
Iowa just scored a touchdown, but they did it with special teams.
Well, of course they did. It's Iowa football.
They're beating Missouri, though, 13-7. SEC hasn't been great in the bowl games, by the way.
I don't care.
The SEC's not been great in bowl games.
Players are opting out at halftime of bowl games, man. I don't care about them.
But it's true for both teams. Like, every team is being, taken apart because of transfer portal and opt-outs and all this stuff.
For sure. And, I know they matter.
It's the same across the board.
Yeah, no, I know they count. Like they do matter to the players. Like, USC A&M was fun on Friday night. But I just don't personally care. These games don't matter. I can't remember. I know we've discussed this before when we were together on the Bees, but the bowl game should be week 1. They should put them at the start of the season next year.
Yeah.
It will help with the rankings.
Make it like college basketball with the Maui Invitational.
Yeah, but BYU, Colorado, week 1 of the season next year. Better than it is this year. Matters more because you're going to see Colorado's new quarterback. You're going to see what this team is all about next year. It'd be a way better option. And those are all the weeks. That's week 0 now. Congratulations, you get an extra game.
I've stolen that take from Dana Holgerson. I think that he's the one who told me that.
Dana Holgerson, he's got to grab this kid by the hair and
Which
tell him.
Kid? Whoa! Grab what kid by what hair?
Dylan Raiola. And tell him to stop being Patrick Mahomes. It is embarrassing. That kid, I would not draft that kid if my life depended on getting a quarterback. He is embarrassing himself. It's bizarre.
He's living the gimmick.
Dude, he's a college football quarterback. This isn't the WWE.
It's method acting.
He's even celebrating after games like Patrick Mahomes. It's
Joe, you're supposed to dress like the job you want. He's dressing like Pat Mahomes.
It's the strangest behavior. How is Matt Rule or Dana or no one in his family told him this is embarrassing, kid?
Yeah. It is kind of weird.
I think he's at Nebraska because they wear red. I know his dad played for Nebraska.
Yeah.
But I think it's because they're the Chiefs colors.
I think they paid him well too, and he's also. I think his younger brother's going there.
He's
going there. Hopefully, he doesn't dress like Mahomes.
It's so strange.
It is a little weird. It's a little weird. All right, I got a sidetrack. 713-780-ESPN. What are your New Year's resolutions for the pro teams in the city of Houston? 713-780-3776. At least we're going to do the pro teams. You can do whoever you want. 713-780-3776. Where are you at with the? Let's go Texans next. What's your New Year's resolution for the Texans?
Never quit.
Well done. That was good timing, Brian.
Three new offensive linemen. That's my New Year's resolution for the Texans.
Okay, what positions?
Honestly, don't care, Jeremy.
Yeah.
3 starting offensive linemen.
Okay.
Should be the New Year's resolution. It can be, you can go left guard, center, right tackle. You can go left guard, center, right guard. Any real combination that you want to take for this approach. Really, I guess, and even we talked about this the other day, the idea of moving on from Laramie Tunsil is not crazy, but
no,
you have to do 4 offensive linemen then.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay if they did it. I'm almost okay with whatever they do on the offensive line, unless it's keeping them all. If they have mass exodus, okay, that's fine by me. Mine's pretty close to the same. I think that my New Year's resolution for the Texans is that they need to make life easy on CJ Stroud, and it starts with the offensive line. So 3 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them, cool. Chris Strauser, see ya, cool. Bobby Slowick, see ya. If that's what needs to be done, and whatever you can to make life easier on Stroud, offensive line, play calling, skill players, whatever it takes, they need to remember that CJ Stroud is still a young quarterback in the NFL and make his life easy. Andy Reid makes Pat Mahomes' life easy. There's you need to do that in the NFL. You need to make your quarterback's life easy to be successful in the NFL. That's what I want the Texans to do. Brian, what do you got?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think this needs to be an offseason where every conversation is asked or started with the question, does this help CJ Stroud's progression? Does this help him get back to where he was as a rookie and beyond that? And if it's not that, then you obviously change your direction. And adding on to what Joe said with the offensive line, I'd like to see them make a change in offensive coordinator. I don't think that's going to happen. Certainly Lance and the people Lance talked to don't seem to think it'll happen. But sometimes, even if you think Slowick's doing a good job, and I don't, but even if you think he's doing a good job, when the offense has taken this big of a step backwards, you just need a voice sometimes. Change the scenery, change the voice in your head. I think they got to move on from Bobby Slowick.
I've been pretty hesitant on that idea, but I'd be okay with it. Like I'm ready for wholesale changes to this offense just for like peace of mind. It might not even be the best decision, but for my peace of mind, it's what I want it. I want it the most. So that's where I'm kind of at with the Slowick thing. 713-780-3776. What about the Astros? What's your New Year's resolution for the Stros, Joe?
Yeah, when you get to the trade deadline and you're looking to make a big move, my only New Year's resolution is don't trade Cam Smith. Don't do it.
I don't think they would ever do that.
They traded every good prospect they've brought in so far.
Has there been a prospect that's really hurt them though?
I mean,
like, Wilyer Abreu is probably the best one.
No, but like we don't know like what Drew Gilbert's gonna be. Like, and he was on the team for less than a year. Like,
yeah, but you can't say you're right. We can't say who he's gonna be. That's why you can't be like, oh, they wasted this guy or they
no, but
used,
but the bigger picture is that like you have to build up your farm system at some point. Like you just got this guy for Kyle Tucker. Do not trade him at the deadline. Like whatever move you're going to make is going to be for a player that's probably not very expensive or that's very expensive for the rest of the year, but not under control. Like don't trade him because they need to build a farm system at some point. And I just don't want to see them move on from these young players time and time again. Keep Cam Smith. That's my only New Year's resolution for the Astros because I think the rest will fall into place this year still. But like, don't move on from this guy before you really give him a chance to show like what he can be because I think he's gonna be a really good player.
I think there's less than a 1% chance they trade Cam Smith at the deadline. I think it's really unrealistic.
I didn't think they were going to trade Drew Gilbert, to be honest.
Yeah, but Drew Gilbert wasn't a player that Dana Brown brought in. Like he didn't he inherited Drew Gilbert. And if we believe reports, which is always a very dangerous thing to do, like we don't like if we believed every report, D'Amico Ryans would be the head coach of the Texans. But if we believe reports, Dana Brown was willing to get rid of Drew Gilbert and Ryan Clifford before he was willing to get rid of Jacob Melton.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's difficult to like look at those prospects pre Dana Brown to know who Dana Brown really covets or wants to keep. I think a guy that he gets in a Kyle Tucker trade probably isn't a guy that he's going to trade. Now, the wild card in this is that Jim Crane's like, oh, Justin Verlander's out there. Let's trade Cam Smith for him. And I say that kind of tongue in cheek, but there are times where Jim Crane, we think, has meddled and has signed off on these trades, telling the general manager what to do. So, like, that to me is more of the wild card, but I don't think that Dana Brown would trade Cam Smith at all. Like, he's the prize of the Tucker trade. Like, you can't trade that guy in my mind. The wild card would be Crane. I'm with you on building the minor league system, but I also believe in trading minor leaguers that you don't think will make it in the big leagues. Like, I think that, in my opinion, how you sustain success in baseball is that you build through the minors, you build through player development, and you give that like all of your attention. But you also trade from that whenever you don't think a player is going to help you at the big league level that you can get big league help from. Mm-hmm. So, like, if we use Gilbert as an example, and I don't really know if Gilbert's going to make it or not as a big leaguer, but Drew Gilbert, prospect, was he top 100? I can't remember if he was top 100 or not.
Yeah, I think he still is.
Top 100 guy. Dana Brown, though, evaluates Drew Gilbert, and he's like, you know what? I don't think this guy is a big league starter. He projects, in my opinion, as a fourth outfielder. And the moment that you don't project him to be a starter at the big league level and he still has good trade value, I think you trade those type of players. I believe in building through the system, but I also believe in trusting your scout on a player and getting rid of that player whenever they still have good value. Because actually, I think that is building through the system because you now have added to your big league level, your big league talent by trading from your minor league system.
My only counter is
you have to nail your scouts. In my like long story short, you have to nail your scouts.
Yeah, they just think they've traded their prospects who like we don't know answers about for guys who have contributed to nothing. To be honest, I mean, like, or who are gone for nothing. Like JV's gone now.
I mean, JV helped you though. Like JV
Yeah.
helped you in the year that they went to the World Series that year, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they won the World Series that year, I guess. But like you traded a bunch of guys for, who just signed with the Angels.
Kikuchi?
Yeah,
Kikuchi helped you. Like you can make the case.
I know, but he didn't even pitch in a playoff game.
I might not make this case, but Kikuchi, you could say, is the reason the Astros won the division.
I think that's totally fair. But like,
and but what if Loperfido and look, I feel like I'm arguing both sides of this because I didn't like the trade. But if Joey Loperfido, Will Wagner, and Jake Bloss do nothing at the big league level, then that was a win.
No, I agree with you. I'm not trading Cam Smith for a guy who's 40, just because he's Jim Crane's friend.
Yeah.
Or like other moves. Like I just
think it's super unrealistic.
I hope so. Smith. Like I don't trust them to not do this. Like they just keep trading these guys when they bring them in.
My not Dana's guys though.
I know.
Well, I guess that's not true. They traded Jake Bloss. He drafted Jake Bloss. So I guess that would be the counterpoint to that. My New Year's resolution for the Astros is that they prove to everybody that the window is still open. Like everybody's been, the window's closed. No Alex Bregman, window closed. Like go out there, win the division, like win 90 games and do it on the backs of guys that you have locked up still for a while. Like Yordan Alvarez. Hey, Yordan Alvarez, go be a top 5 player. You have him locked up for a while. Hey, Jeremy Pena, become a top 10 shortstop. You have him locked up still for a little while. So show everybody that this window will be extended with like this new era of Houston Astro baseball, like the post-Tucker, post-Bregman era, where you still have this window open. So that's my New Year's resolution for them. Brian, what do you got?
Yeah, and mine is a little bit in at odds with your New Year's resolution there, but I'd like them to keep looking and exploring and talking about a possible trade away of Framber Valdez. Now, I'm not saying, because this is the part of the conversation you, Joel, and I had about maybe they were getting offers, maybe they were considering trading, and the offers were just bad, and so they walked away, they pushed away from the table. And if that's the case and it remains the case, then fine, don't trade Framber Valdez, write it out and see if he can get you another division title. But the worst possible outcome for this to me is letting him walk at the end of the year and getting like a 4th round pick back in return. So I think they have to be willing to go, no half measures, full measures. You traded away Tucker, keep exploring, keep looking at possible trades for Framber Valdez, even if that means into the season and there's an injury to somebody and the team gets desperate and offers you, a huge haul for them. I think you have to be willing to trade Framber Valdez, regardless of record this year, regardless of where you think this team could do. You can't lose him at the end of the year for a 4th round pick.
I would mostly agree with that. Like I would, I want to have a price that if it gets met on Framber, then I'm willing to trade him. Where the Astros finish with their payroll is important to this too, because like you throw out the 4th round number, which indicates that the Astros will be operating over the collective, the CBT, the competitive balance tax, which right now I think they are a little bit over it. But if you get under that, then all of a sudden becomes at the end of the 1st round comp, which is a major difference.
Things, yeah.
Major difference. So like the payroll is a caveat to what you do with Framber. It's also very difficult to trade Framber if you're like fighting for one of the top spots in the American League. But I'm mostly with you. Like if I have a price for Framber, if some team wants to meet that price, I'm totally fine trading a player going into or in the final year of their deal. I believe that is how you sustain winning. I would constantly be trading those players, much like you traded it with Kyle Tucker. Hopefully Dana Brown did that, like you mentioned, and he just didn't get that price met. I'm hoping that's what happened. Chris from Sam Houston says, turn off Bagwell's badge to Minute Maid Park. That's a great one, Chris.
Yep.
I love that idea. Hopefully he doesn't have power anymore.
I love the Killer Bees at 97.5.
Yeah, unfortunately we won't be able to play that drop anymore because Gallant and Blank doesn't not Killer Bees. All right, 713-780-ESPN. Mailbag Monday. We're going to do a Mailbag Monday with Branham and George. I got this one in the divorce as well. What are your questions for Branham and George? 713-780-3776. It is Branham and George on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5. What is your question for Branham and George? New show on ESPN 97.5, 92.5, 713-780-3776. Your questions for Joe and I. Real quick, TJB Enemy just tweeted this out. Deontay Johnson on what he's noticed with the Texans. He says, team first. Everybody's about the team. I'm about the team too, so I'm doing whatever the coach has asked me to do. This was the same guy who refused to go into a game and was suspended for a game. Something isn't adding up here, Joe. Team first? What?
Team first now. Now it's team first.
Confuses me,
It's
man.
Texans first.
All right, what are your questions for Branham and George? 713-780-3776. First question comes from Steven on YouTube. Are y'all the only three left on the station, or is everyone else just off of work?
Everyone's off work.
Yeah, we're the only ones the rest of the year, but everybody's off of work.
Yeah.
Now, the
true.
configuration and the schedule is going to be a little bit different. But, yeah, everybody will be back at some point. Just might be different time slots. B. Hannon, did Breggy want to go back to Hinch?
He hasn't signed there yet either.
It's true.
Like, I don't know if they have the money for that, to be honest. But I mean, their payroll last year was $109. Are they really going to pay him while they're still paying Javier Baez like $57 million?
That Baez thing is weird. Like, he's unplayable. Like, he's Rafael Montero on steroids.
Yeah, he's awful.
They can't play him, right? Like, is he going to play next year? Well, they're just going to release him.
I don't know, because like they're not the kind of team. Like, I don't think that they will. They don't seem like that kind of organization
They just
to eat a contract.
contracts.
Yeah. So, I think he's just going to be on the bench, a really expensive bench player.
Yeah, he's still got 3 more years.
I mean, they're probably going to move on from Torkelson. Like they just, in one of the moves they made the other day, like they said one of their prospects is moving to first base. So,
I think that Bregman wants to sign with a team that pays him the most money, quite frankly. I don't think it has anything to do with Hinch. I don't think it has anything to do with Cora. I don't think it has anything to do with Houston. I think it's very apparent that Alex Bregman's going to go to the highest bidder, wherever it may be.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily blame him for that. Like, I don't necessarily blame him for that, but I think that's his motive. I don't think he has really ties anywhere. I think he would have accepted the Astros. There was some thought. Jeremy Booth said that he thinks that the Astros gave Bregman a better offer than what was reported.
I think the way that Dana Brown kind of talked to the other day, like that, I think helped lead Jeremy to that belief is that they countered another deal.
Yeah, I think so. 713-780-ESPN. What are your questions for the Killer Bees? Another texture. Why didn't y'all get any vacation for the holidays? Because Joel works me like a government mule.
Who?
Joe.
Lies.
No, I take a lot of PTO.
Yes, you do. And I'm here because I'm a good friend. I'm a good friend.
A lot. I take a fair amount.
I take them all.
I mean, you're here because you're
the only one that takes them all.
Why wouldn't you take them all?
You know what? Honestly, Jeremy, fantastic question.
Like, I will never understand the people that. I mean, Joe and I just had a conversation. I've got days rollovers. Like, I'm going to take them. They're not going to go to waste.
Yeah, like we get a couple rollover days. Like, so I took my vacation 2 weeks ago because I'm a good friend. So I'm here to support you, Jeremy. Like,
yeah.
So,
I mean, I use all my days. I travel during the year. A lot of my
people don't.
PTO
I don't
days
get
are
it.
to work. I take a lot of days off work to work.
That's true. You do.
Take a lot of days off work to work, so I have to work some of these weird days from time to time. Yeah, so all my PTO days are up. That's why I'm working today. But also, get this new show started off on the right foot too, going into the year. I think is important. The Crawfish Box just tweeted this out the other day. Getting a little tired of seeing quite a few fans still criticize Bregman for declining the Astros offer. He thinks he'll get more money elsewhere. Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. If the fans want to vilify Boris, then so be it. But it's ridiculous to direct the vitriol at Breggy.
Why?
Is it fair to be critical of Alex Bregman, Joe?
Yes. Man, there's a bunch of softies in this fan base. Like, you can't criticize Bregman. Why are we booing CJ Stroud? Get over it. Like, this is what fans do in like any rational sports market. They get upset with their players when they don't sign here and when they play poorly. Like, it's totally fine to criticize Bregman. He's going to take less money to be on a worse team. Congratulations, dude.
I don't think he'll take less money.
I don't think his offer, like the reported
total
offer,
total
money,
okay,
like will be per year it will be more, but I don't think he will get at least this first contract more money than what the Astros offered him.
Yeah, total money might be in play. I would still guess that he gets more than 156.
I don't know.
But could I see him doing like a 3-year, $35 million a year, opt-outs after year 1, year 2, kind of like Correa? Yeah.
But I think
Chapman did the same thing.
Yeah, but like I think he'll be more likely to be Cody Bellinger, to where he's opting back into his contract and the team doesn't want him anymore, than Carlos Correa, who opted out and got 3 massive contract offers because of his injury. Like, I think Alex Bregman made the wrong bet, to be honest. I think he should have taken the Astros deal, because he starts slow somewhere else. People are not going to be as forgiving as this fan base, this front office, the media has been. So
I don't know. I still think he has a good chance of getting more than 156. I think he could go the Chapman route too, where Chapman took like that big deal for San Francisco, but short term, and then they liked him, and then they gave him a big deal.
Yep, that does make sense.
I could see him going like that route too. It depends on his performance next year. But I think it's perfectly acceptable to direct vitriol at Breggy.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? Like, remember when Carlos Beltran left and everybody hated him? They hated him. They booed him, greedy, all these things. Well, Bregman won more for you. So what? So what? Like, that's more reason that he should have stayed, right? Like, I don't blame Bregman for going out to get the most money he can. Like, if that's his motive, good for him. I'm not saying I would be any different. I might be the exact same as Bregman. If I had 2 World Series titles, I probably would be trying to make as much money as I possibly could. So I don't hold any ill will towards Bregman, but can you give him a little bit of grief and vitriol? Absolutely. And the whole, like, vilify Scott Boras aspect of that, too, is the Astros have had pretty good, like, history negotiating with Scott Boras. You know why? Because the client tells Scott Boras what to do. Jose Altuve is a Scott Boras guy. He has signed a team-friendly deal with you multiple times. Now, he wasn't always with Boras, but he was with Boras in his most recent contract. Lance McCullers, Scott Boras guy. And at the time, Lance McCullers signed a team-friendly deal. Now, it hasn't worked out very well because of the injuries. So, like, the agent's always going to do what the client wants. So I think it's pretty clear Bregman's telling his agent, go give me the most amount of money. But yeah, it's perfectly fair for the fan base to be angry at Alex Bregman for that. Not that I mind that he's leaving, not that I mind that he's getting a ton of money, but I don't mind the fan base also giving him a little bit of hell.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with it. I mean, hell, they're probably going to boo Kyle Tucker when he got traded. Like,
yeah, that's funny.
Like, not the first at bat, they will cheer for him, but like if he does something in the next at bat, they'll boo Kyle Tucker, because like that's what fans do. You cheer, you boo, regardless of what the player did or did not do for your team. Like, I don't understand why like there's this gatekeeping of like being mean to players.
Yeah,
it's so
just
soft.
Don't get personal online, really. Like, boo him, sure. Oh, you should take less. Like, fine, whatever. Fans are going to fan. 713-780-ESPN. What's your question for Branham and George? Mailbag Monday. Can Jalen Green be the guy? Ask a texter.
I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I'm getting closer and closer to him not being the guy. He's still super young.
Mm-hmm.
Still super, super young, and he does have tons of potential. Tons of potential. But I don't think he's a consistent enough shooter. I think he disappears against good defenses, and I think he disappears late. Those are not good signs. Like, I would even be okay with him, like, trying to take over a game late and it not being good. Like, hey, go get the ball, go try to create, go try to make a shot, instead of being passive. Like, I'd rather him be aggressive and not be successful than just be overall passive.
Totally
and I
agree.
see a lot of him being passive. So, like, to me, he doesn't have the elements of being a killer on the floor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally agree. He just lacks that it factor. And yeah, it's kind of like when like CJ was talking earlier in the year about like taking chances and stuff. Like, sometimes taking chances and making mistakes is okay. Like, I'd rather Jalen take a terrible shot, but at least take it. He just kind of vanishes. Him and Albie both. It's not great.
You know what is the first step to success? I think it's failure. Is that old quote? I think it's something like that.
Something like that.
But you look at like Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown at 22 was like a 13-point per game scorer. So, like, do I think that Jalen Green potentially could become the guy and learn it? Yeah. I wouldn't rule it out, especially with good coaching. Just to me, the signs aren't there. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully Jalen can be that guy and you don't need to make a trade and mortgage all of that stuff. Hopefully Jalen can just become that star. But yeah, as of right now, I don't see it, but I wouldn't rule it completely out because he's still super young. Would you take, this one's from Barstool, would you take one big game win in 50 years or 4 incredible seasons but no championship?
Oh.
Only 4 incredible seasons over the same 50-year time period?
No, I think it's like in a row.
Yeah. So like, would you rather be good for the next, like really, really good the next 4 years, but not win a title, or win a title and then not win for the next 50 years?
It's like the Bills back when they had like Jim Kelly versus who was a team that won it and then like was immediately bad. Almost like the Marlins. They won 2 though.
Yeah, well, they won 2 in both years. They were terrible right after that.
Yeah.
'cause they blew
So
it
like
up.
the Marlins, but only half of the Marlins. I think to me it would depend on the history that I've had with that team.
It depends on the
and if
team.
they've won one recently. Like the Astros, since they've won 2 recently, I'd be cool with 4 incredible seasons but no championships.
Yeah.
Because they've won recently. Like I don't need it as bad. I don't want it as bad. But if it were like the Texans, I'd probably go one big game.
I think I'm with
Rockets
you.
I'm on the
I think
fence with.
it's dependent upon the team you're rooting for, but
Yeah.
specifically with the Texans, I mean, here we are going into year 23, or not going into, but we're in year 23 of the franchise and never even reached the conference championship game. I would take the one big win game, the one Super Bowl for 50 years over the guarantee of 4 incredible seasons over the next 4.
Yeah, like, for the Texans, like if they win a Super Bowl like next year, but then the other, 50 years of the first 50 years of the franchise is what it's been, which is a lot of 8-9, 9-8, like 500 football, making the playoffs in a terrible division. I think everyone would take the title over 4 AFC championship runs. Like the title matters more. I'm taking the title, honestly, for any of them.
No matter what?
I don't know
Yeah.
if I would take it for the Astros. Because I guess if you want to quote unquote cement the dynasty, because there's the argument you have to have 3 titles to make it a dynasty. Although I would argue
Yeah,
that
so
a little bit, but I don't think I would take the one title for the Astros, but I would take it for the Texans for sure. And the Rockets, even though they have 2 titles, it's been 30 years now, so I would take it for them as well.
Yeah, we have people on our staff who weren't alive when the Rockets won the championships.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, so I think
AJ,
Sean.
Sheesh.
Yeah, Sean wasn't
Mapes?
alive. Yeah, that's true.
I guess.
My goodness.
Yeah, no, Sean would have been like maybe born.
Abigail wouldn't have been alive.
Yeah, Sam. Like,
Sam's wouldn't have been alive.
Yeah. And like pretty much any of our part-time producers, and then social media, and then our full-timer Mapes. Like,
Hell, Joe, you were what, like 2?
when did they win their first title?
93, 94?
I was 1 and 2.
He didn't like that though because he wanted Jordan to get more.
Yeah, but I was 1 and 2.
Yeah, he was in diapers when Jordan won those titles.
That's crazy.
I wasn't
That's crazy
born
to
for
think of it like
Jordan's
that.
first title.
It's crazy to think of that. Like Big C says the Rangers. It's like the Rangers.
So this is.
I think the Rangers have a chance to be okay this year. Actually,
I think the Astros almost like don't work for this question because the context of the question was to Joe Burrow, right? From Barstool, like they asked Joe Burrow this question. It was.
What did Burrow say?
I think Burrow said you take the title. So like that's where like for like the Bengals, the Texans, like I think the title works. Like a team like the Astros, it's almost like it's too complicated because they've been so good. Like you have to be this like kind of failing or mediocre team or team that can't get over the hump. Like I think Bills fans, Texans is perfect. Like, and I think for the Rockets, I'd take the title. We had the James Harden era. Would you rather have the James Harden era or 1 championship?
Championship.
Exactly. Like,
well, it depends on the players because I didn't like Harden. I
True.
like Harden. Like if you would give me 4 incredible seasons of Yao and T-Mac versus 1 big championship with Harden, give me Yao and T-Mac. Like I fall in love with the players, and like I also think that this is gonna sound crazy. I feel like because we live in like this championship culture that nothing else matters besides a championship, and I think that's silly. I think it's a really silly way of taking in sports. Like my favorite thing about taking in sports, sure, the championships are great, but it's just like following the team day in day out. And then, like, them improving, them getting better, the fun ride of the season, like, the journey of the season. Sure, like, ending with the pinnacle of a title makes the journey way better. But I feel like this championship or bust society we live in nowadays has it all wrong, quite frankly.
I tend to agree. I mean, but it's like at the same time, if you don't win at all, it always kind of still feels like a lot of like emptiness. Like Chris Paul is gonna have a great career, but like it's hard to put him in that conversation with like the guys you want to put him in because he didn't win anything.
Yeah, I think getting 1 kind of changes it more than anything else too.
Yeah.
Like once you get the 1 and it's recent, like to Brian's point about the Rockets, it's kind of like, well, whatever. Like you already kind of have the 1. Sure, the next one would be great. You really want it for a variety of different reasons, but I like the journey. I like the stories. I like the drama. I like that's kind of like what I like following about a team, like watching them day in day out and seeing the ebbs and flows. Maybe that's me being an old man. Maybe that's me being romantic about sports. I don't know. But
No, I
I
think it's
feel like
fair.
I feel like we overrate championships. Like it's crazy to say that, but I really do. I feel like, because you were runner up 5 years in a row that that team can't get love or that team's a choker. Like I feel like that's ridiculous. I
So
think it's
do you think
shallow.
so like from this perspective then, like what is Mahomes already better than Brady then? Because a lot of people use
No.
titles as
See, I think that's another way you can look at it because I have a big thing where I think that resume is different than like
titles.
the talent or the player.
Sure.
Like Tom Brady's resume, I don't think will ever be surpassed ever. I don't think anybody's ever going to beat Tom Brady's resume. Tom Brady literally has more championships than every organization in football. Like that's never going to be passed.
Yeah.
But do I think he's a better quarterback than Pat Mahomes? No, I don't think he was better than than Peyton Manning. I think Manning was a better quarterback than Brady. But Brady's resume is unanimously better than those other guys, and it will always be.
Mhm.
So I think there's different ways of looking at it.
That's
All right,
fair.
let's take a look at the college football playoffs. 4 games on tap, quarterfinals. We'll have them all right here on ESPN 97.5. Who advances to the semis in your mind? And also reported change coming to the college football playoff. Do you like it? 713-780-ESPN. It is Branham and George on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5.
You are back with Gallant and George
on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.
from the Veritex Community Bank Studios. Here's Paul and Joe.
All right, college football playoffs. 1 game tomorrow, 3 games on New Year's Day. You can listen to them all right here on ESPN 97.5, 92.5. Branham for Gallant, blockbuster trade before the New Year transfer window at the station. So college football, before we talk about the games tomorrow, 1 tomorrow, and then 3 on Wednesday. College football, they're talking about reseeding or changing up how they do the seeding. As you know, right now, you need to be a conference champion to get a top 4 seed, a first-round bye, which a lot of people are unhappy about. They felt like it would have been a better bracket if you just went straight seeding. What do you think of the potential changes, Joe George?
I think it makes a lot of sense. And then I think we'll see, like, obviously they'll have a new committee next year because there's a new committee every single year. I think we'll see some changes with that too, because I don't think like Penn State, for example, would have been left in the spot they are if there was the bye. Like, I do think we would have seen more moving and shaking in that final playoff bracket. But I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think Arizona State and Boise State deserve buys in the first round. It didn't make sense. It was illogical. It didn't need to happen from the get-go. Like, the plan of this was to get conference champions into the playoff. We didn't need to guarantee them a bye. I also think it's only a 1-year change, though. Like, I think we're going to 14 or 16 in 2026. So I think it's better for next year, but I still think it's I think they should just make the jump next year. Like, if they're going to do it, just do it. Like, they should have started slower, personally, Jeremy. I think they should have gone to 8 before they went to 12.
Why? What's wrong with this?
Because you didn't need 9 through 12. And I think that
why not? You don't like top 12 teams playing football against each other?
Yeah. Well, how were any of these games competitive?
Well, they would be if you did the seeding the way that you wanted it.
No, not in the first round.
Absolutely, they would. Because they would be more competitive. Because now the teams that you said didn't deserve a bye, they would be playing in these first round games at seed 5 through 12. So you wouldn't see Texas was a 5 seed. They would have been a top 4 seed under your proposal. Penn State, who won by 28, they would have been a top 4 seed under your proposal. So instead of Penn State, who won by 28, instead of Texas, who won by 14, but it wasn't even a 14-point game, they're now getting buys, and they're being replaced by Arizona State and Boise State, which, by your argument, would make those first-round games closer.
Yeah, I mean, I think like they maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure 8 through 12 or 9, the 9, 10, 11, 12 teams. What I'm saying is that those teams like really will be that good that often. Like I'm just not sure that like they really are. These games are going to be that competitive. Look, the semifinals weren't competitive, rarely ever in the 14 playoff. I mean, we've got 2 double-digit underdogs. Like, that doesn't necessarily change by reseeding.
I think it changes a lot. I think it changes a lot of that because you would eliminate some of the lesser teams immediately if you assume that these teams are lesser, which I don't necessarily think that. Now, I think that rewarding conference championships matters. And I was at first in favor of the top 4 conference champions getting buys. I've been talked out of that. I think that it is better if you don't guarantee the conference champions buys in the first 4, as long as you give them a seat at the dance. That way they have a chance to prove that they could be the national champion. So I'm good with that compromise there. I totally disagree about not having 12. I like college football. I want as many college football games with ranked opponents that I can see. Like, do you bet on MACtion ever, Joe? You probably bet on MACtion, and you don't want to see an 8-9 game. Like, what are you talking about? You're betting Bowling Green in Miami, Ohio on a Tuesday night, but you don't want to see an 8-9 matchup with stakes on the line? Come on now. What are you talking about?
I think they should have just tested it. Like, I think they should have just tested 8 teams first. Just, like, make sure it goes well. Because they're going to do this for 2 years and they're going to jump to 14 or 16. So like, then why don't they just jump to 16? Like, why are you waiting? Why are you doing 12 for 2 years?
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded a jump to 16, but maybe 12 was the slow step up that you're talking about. The ACC sucks, by the way. I just wanted to let everybody know that. They've been destroyed in bowl season, which is why, SMU probably shouldn't have been in the college football playoff. It should have went either to Alabama or more likely to BYU. I would have liked that a whole lot. There was something I was going to say. Oh, yeah. With the trying to get the top four seeds instead of guaranteeing conference champions. This has to be unanimously agreed, by the way. So, like, what are you going to do to sweeten the negotiation for the ACC commissioner, for the Big 12 commissioner, to where they're going to sign off on this?
Home game,
So,
no
like,
matter what.
they're going to need some positive rub in this deal if they're going to sign off on this.
I think it's a home game no matter what.
So if they're an 11 seed, they're hosting a 6 seed.
Yes, I think that's a totally fair compromise of, like, you don't get a bye, but you won your conference, so you get a home game. Now, there'll have to be a caveat, of course, of that if the Big 12 champion and the ACC champion were to match up in the first round of the playoffs, then you're SOL. But I think that's the compromise, is you get the home game playoff revenue. You get to go to Boise State, to wherever in the first round of the playoff. I think that's the best compromise, to where if I was those schools, I would be understanding and I would agree. Now, I think unfortunately, and maybe fortunately, a lot of it will depend on what happens in the next 2 days. If Arizona State gets run out of the building, like, this is definitely happening. Like, if these games are not competitive,
though, unless it gets agreed upon. Like, it's the contract.
Yeah, but they can bully them out. We know they can, because all they have to do is say, fine, Big 12 and ACC, we're leaving you behind. Notre Dame's coming with us, and we're taking the SEC and the Big 10, and we're doing our own playoff. Like, we don't need you. Like, we're the draw. We're the money makers. They can bully them into whatever they want, honestly. Like, I don't think they really have, like, this much say, because what is left of college football if the Big 10 and the SEC go to be their own league? So there might be one of those where, like, you get a home playoff game, and that's kind of the best you're going to get, bud.
I think it's a good compromise, but I think to have the immediate agreement, there's going to have to be a sweetener. I don't think there's any way around it. I don't think the long term "we're going to leave you" is going to carry weight for immediate change. The home game might. I think that's a good idea. I think it's a good compromise. A texter, please ask Joe what sport doesn't have first round blowouts. 409 Spencer.
It's a good point. It's a good counter.
Yeah. Another texture, he gave us the matchups of what they would be if they did the seeding the way that we're talking about. It would be Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State, Arizona State, Tennessee, SMU, Indiana, Boise State. They would have been the matchups. I think those are definitely better games. It's not to get, like, the whole point of the playoff, though, isn't for better games. It's for more games that they can make more money on, and then, like, they're going to give you the PR spill of, well, everybody has a chance now. Like, that's the purpose. The purpose isn't that you have great first-round games. If they are, that's bonus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I definitely agree. I mean, I liked the 12-team playoff. I think I never liked the bye, so I think they'll move quickly on this, and they will quickly pivot to a different version of this. Like they're saying, like, I think this will get approved, and they'll find enough ways to do it. And maybe one of the sweeteners is the SEC and the Big 10 saying that, hey, when we expand to 16, we're not going to demand 3 spots each. We're only going to demand 2 spots each. Like that
4.
might be one of them.
I think they were trying to demand 4. Maybe that could be it. That could be a good. I mean, that should be a compromise, quite frankly. All right, let's get to the car wreck of the day. What are you nominating for car wreck of the day? 713-780-3776. It is Branham and George on ESPN 97.5 and ESPN 92.5. All right, what do you nominate for car wreck of the day? 713-780-3776. Joe, what are you nominating?
Cam Ward / University of Miami, like whatever's going on. Apparently opted out at halftime of his bowl game, but then some people are saying that it was planned and for a record, and he hasn't spoken to the media yet, which is making this even worse because of the speculation. And like we know guys have opted out of bowl games before, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, but to leave in the middle of a game, I think is a really bad look. And whoever's advising him to not tell his side of the story, I think it's even worse. So whatever's going on down there, but yeah, disaster.
Yeah, this isn't great. Plus, it broke Case Keenum's record, so it's even worse. It's even worse than even you're making it out to be. Doing the whole like prep, playing, like game planning, going through the weeks, getting ready for the bowl, and then you pull yourself out at halftime is incredibly weird.
Unless it was only
because you already risked injury in the first half. Like if the whole point was, man, I can't risk a catastrophic injury going to the draft process. Well, you already risked it for 2 quarters.
I mean, the point was so he could break the record and then get out of Dodge healthy. That was the point, right?
I guess.
I mean, obviously it was the point. Like there's no other rationale.
Yeah, but then why don't you just tell people that? Like,
because it's a red flag to NFL teams.
I don't know.
Though?
Like,
I think it would be. Like if your motivations were purely on yourself and not on the team, I'm not saying every team will take that into factor and make it a big deal, but some old school coaches will blow that up for sure.
Yeah, it's a meaningless bowl game. We're like, it shouldn't even count towards the record A.
That agreed, 100% agree.
Like none of it should. Like the playoff can fine.
I don't even like that. I think it's just
too many games.
12 regular season games. That's the record, but you can't put.
I mean, everybody had the luxury prior to them too, though.
I know you can't undo what's already been done, but if I had my way, it would only be the regular season games.
Yeah, I don't like this. I rather just opt out if you're not going to do it. Like, but it's very clear. We're not dumb. It's very clear what he was doing. He wanted to get the record and then get out healthy. Okay, like whatever. I personally don't think it's going to affect the NFL, his NFL prospects at all. I don't think anybody's going to care. I think if he's a top 5 pick, he's still going to be a top 5 pick. I don't think this hurts his NFL draft stock at all. I don't like it for the college game per se, although I don't really care about these bowls anymore. I don't think it hurts his NFL stock at all.
I mean, the narrative, it's going to be comped to Anthony Richardson all draft process.
He's a better thrower than Richardson, I think.
I'm talking about bailing on your team, man. Like
the dog and the want to.
There's a little, but everybody thinks they can fix a guy, and it's like once we get him here, he'll never do that.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's going to hurt his draft stock.
I don't think it will either, but it'll be a talking point.
I'm going to nominate Leonard Hamilton. Leonard Hamilton, the college basketball coach at Florida State. He's being sued by 6 former players for over $1.5 million for unpaid NIL deals. Like we need college sports are going to have to be unionized. They're going to need a collective bargaining agreement. Like they're going to need to change all of the recklessness that is happening. Like I'm all for the players getting paid. I'm not saying reverse any of that, but it's time that they get contracts. Like you're agreeing to these $1 million, handouts and you're not getting a contract.
Yeah, we saw.
What other avenue would we do that? None.
We saw the UNLV quarterback leave. What was it after week 4? The UNLV quarterback left because he wasn't getting at UNLV, and at the time they were undefeated. Obviously, didn't end up making the playoff because they lost to Boise in their conference title game. But he left because UNLV wasn't holding up their end of the bargain.
Yeah, Florida State
contracts.
Florida State put out a statement about 20 minutes ago. Part of it is like they have said through our inquiry, though our inquiry is not complete, at this point we know of no unfulfilled commitments by FSU in terms of scholarships and other appropriate benefits. They're throwing Leonard Hamilton under the bus and saying he has the right to defend himself, but they are not saying they will defend him because they can't prove that he didn't make these promises over like text message.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Like they need to clean it up. Like I'm all for the player getting paid. I'm all for like what's happening. But let's get a little bit of rule. Let's get a little bit of contract. Let's get some legalities. That's all I'm saying.
Schools messing this up, not the players. Stunning.
I mean, the player can get the contract, I think. Brian, you want to nominate one?
Yeah, quickly, Colts defense and the Colts overall. Just what an end to the season. I know they got 1 game left to play, but 45 points to the Giants? Are you kidding me? They got a clean house.
Yeah, they do. All right, what's winning?
I think the Colts, what a disaster. They lost McAfee. They're screwed.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
McAfee. Why are there bloggers going after McAfee? That seems dumb.
They're like the Astros fans who are upset about Alex Bregman.
They're rooting for this little nerd who does Colts and blue, all that stuff. All right, does it for us. Thanks to Brian for doing the hard work. He's Joe. I'm Jeremy. We'll talk to you on Thursday. This was Branham and George. Keep it here on ESPN 97.5. Goodbye, everybody.